one band, one fucking woman show. And I can barely do this one. Do you understand? I am like holding this together with fucking glue and paper clips and like the tiniest amount of spit and a Kylie lip kit that I've had for 5 fucking years. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing my best. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this, yet another episode of Busy Phillips is doing her best. I am the titular Busy Phillips. Joined today, per usual, as usual. I don't even know. I don't know what I was gonna say. My dear Caissie St. Ange.
Hello.
And we're so thrilled today because we get to have a new guest, co-host, a dear friend, a lovely human. We all know her and love her, and you do too. Ashley Nicole Black.
Hi.
Woo! The woman voted by Stacey Abrams most likely to play me in a biopic. Do you guys say biopic or biopic?
Okay, I say biopic, but I feel like fancy people started
say biopic.
Just a few years ago.
Just a few years ago. You know what I think it is? I think it's a case of one of those like somebody in a high position of power said it incorrectly, and then everybody else was like, "Oh, we've been saying it wrong the whole time. It's biopic."
Yeah, it's biopic now.
It's biopic.
He's so
It's a real GIF situation because it's a biographical picture. So why
biopic? A biopic.
Yeah.
Why would it be a biopic?
Just to be clear, Stacey Abrams said that Ashley should play Stacey Abrams, not that Stacey Abrams didn't say that Ashley should play Busy Phillips in a biopic.
I would also be prepared to do.
She would
honestly
do a beautiful job either way.
I agree.
Yeah, my kids were stoked, Ashley, by the way. They were like, they told me before anyone. They both came a-running to tell me.
I feel like I broke the news in the group chat. I'm so sorry, Caissie.
You did bring it up in the group chat, but yes, my children knew. You know how they're
on top of it.
Political
they really
news
are.
hounds. Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
I'm just
Can't
excited
wait to vote
she
for one of
remembers
them.
my name.
I mean, it's exciting. Let's
Everybody does. And you're also making Busy Phillips is doing her best history because you're the first person to ever have been a guest and a guest host.
Wow. Oh, I feel like I should be holding a little trophy. She's like, I would like to thank my very free schedule for making this possible.
Well, you have your Emmy right behind you, so you could just snatch it up and pretend.
You have your Emmy on one side and your Swiffer on the other, Ashley. So I'm feeling like you're so well-rounded. Anyway.
Domestic bliss right here. Also, kudos for recognizing the top 1/3 of a Swiffer.
Guys, I'm going to take a picture because we all know the top 1/3 of a Swiffer. You know what I mean?
That's not even the pertinent part.
Okay, I got to pick. Now point to the Emmy over your left shoulder. There it is. Okay, Emmy on one side, Swiffer on the other. That's how we live our lives, guys. It's Hollywood.
Being a lady.
It's Hollywood. Guys, speaking of Hollywood, I did the most amazing, insane table read. I can't talk about it, but it is really funny. And it talks about Hollywood in it. But that's not what I wanted to talk about.
I think I know where this is going, and I'm ready for it.
I wanted to talk about Thomas Middleditch and the Hollywood sex clubs. Caissie shaking her head. Do you not want to talk about it?
No, I
had heard, first of all, okay, go, I want to hear what you have to say first.
When people think ridiculous things about Hollywood, I'm like, oh, come on, you guys. It's not like, don't think ridiculous things. But then when somebody like does something that confirms the ridiculous things that people think, I'm like, thanks a lot, Thomas Middleditch. Thanks a lot.
I know. Also, it just feels so on the nose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Except for the one detail that I cannot get over, and this is not the headline, it's not the important part, but I'm reading the article, And then like 3/4 of the way through, there's a picture of the storefront, and it's on Hollywood Boulevard. It's like having your sex club at Disneyland.
Okay, the fact that this was in the back of Pig and Whistle is actually deeply upsetting to me.
Well, it sounds like there were some real pigs there.
Yeah.
Guys, for those of you who don't know what we're referencing, I don't know how you missed it, but Thomas Middleditch, an improv actor of Middleditch and Schwartz fame, I guess. And
you might know
he
him
does
from
like
shows such as
Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Right. He's like basically the lead of Silicon Valley. And there's been like a few rumor things in the last few years, like swirling about him, kind of by his own making. I feel like he publicly was talking about like how he and his now, I think, ex-wife were swingers or something. Do you guys remember that?
Like the day after he got married, I feel like he was like, I would like to have an open relationship or something.
Right. We have like,
but then he gave an interview about it without telling. So she read in the paper along with everyone else
that they had an open relationship.
Yeah.
That's not, guys. I haven't done a ton of research on open relationships, but I do know that I think one of the tenets of it is that there's an understanding that you don't have to read it in an interview.
Yeah, it's like usually a thing that you talk over.
And you have like rules and stuff.
Yeah.
But so anyways, so there was apparently some weirdos secret.
And also about Thomas Middleditch, he's also one of the, I'm kind of scared about this whole Me Too thing.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it's like gonna, you know.
Oh, he said that, right?
Yeah,
like what's a guy to do?
Yeah.
What are we going to do next? Punish everyone? It's like, well,
like I have some ideas. Well, that's like anyone who said that, you're like, buddy, you want to just come clean right now?
Yeah.
Or like, what are, you know what I mean? What are we waiting
something
for?
you'd like to tell us?
Yeah. Would you like to share? Or do we need to find out?
Just disappointed.
So anyway, so he was, I guess, a part of this members only sort of like goth sex club in the back of Pig and Whistle. It's like Pig and Whistle's like a long-standing LA establishment, like along the lines of, I don't know, like Cantor's or, you know, the deli, or it's like an eating place.
Yeah.
Like people eat like burgers and they have beer.
There's nothing sexier than a full stomach. Nothing more goth than a very bloated.
Like with the Nexium documentary, and then reading this article about this like secret club where they have rituals and you have to get a mark, a tattoo under your eye or on your body. A tattoo on your fucking face. By the way, that is your first sign, people, that like you don't want to be a part of this club. You want to leave. You know what I mean?
I feel like if someone was like, we're going to go to this sexy place, be like, okay, cool, I'll put on my little sexy outfit. And the second someone said face tattoo, I would burst out laughing. There's nothing.
No.
Like
sexy about a face tattoo?
What about sex? That's sexy. Like, let's do that.
I don't know. I've even heard about like secrets. Remember there was maybe an article a couple of years ago about like secret sex clubs in LA where you didn't have to get a tattoo. And it did sound, but you had to pay like a shitload of money to go. And it like did seem like something out of Gossip Girl, you know?
Well, in
LA, not sexy. Like it's not my thing. It's not my kink.
Yeah.
But like if you were into that, I don't know, maybe that would be better than just like the dingy, like peanut crusted floor back room of fucking Pig and Whistle. Like, can you imagine what it smells like? It just smells like alcohol and it's like sticky. And then here comes Thomas Middleditch just like dancing up on you. Like, ew, gross. What's happening to me? Why do I have this tattoo on my face?
Have a membership card?
A membership card.
Well, but that was the thing that like some people had to pay for their membership and other people didn't. And to me, there's
people didn't. Right?
Yeah, there's nothing more LA than finding out that you were like only hot enough to have to pay to get into the Pig and Whistle, but other people were getting in for
That's
free.
always the way. That's how Blockbuster Video was, I heard.
Oh my God. But speaking of which, you know what we watched again the other night?
What?
Swingers.
It's a good one.
You guys, it's a fucking classic. And I'm sorry that Vince Vaughn turned into such a Republican douchebag because he was so fine. Have you ever watched it, Ashley?
Mm-mm.
You haven't?
No, I need
You have to watch it. It is like, it's also just like so perfectly skewers the LA club scene in the late 90s.
Oh my God.
And that's when I moved to LA. So I feel like it was just, it's so good. The movie is so good. I feel like it really does hold up. And Vince Vaughn is so fucking hot.
Busy, you know how you're always like, you never remember anyone's name, you never recognize anyone?
Yeah.
I always remember and recognize usually everyone. When I worked at 30 Rock, we had this new IT computer guy at the Rosie O'Donnell show, and I was walking down the hallway at our offices at 30 Rock, and I saw him, the new computer guy, Mike, and I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he was so friendly and so nice, and he was like, oh, not bad, how are you? And I was like, great, how are you settling in? And he was like, oh, not bad, it's going okay. And I was like, that's good. And I was like, let me know if you need anything. And he was like, okay, cool, that's so nice of you. And I was like, yeah, no problem, you know where to find me. And he was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll just see you around later. And he was like, yeah, see you around later, thanks, and I'll talk to you later. And I was like, okay, bye. And then I walked away, and then everyone was like, you know Vince Vaughn? And I was like, I thought that was Mike, the IT guy.
Wait, I really, really had the hots for mid 90s, even late 90s Vince Vaughn. And when I was on Dawson's Creek, he had filmed a movie in Wilmington, North Carolina, the summer before I got there for season 5 of Dawson's Creek. And it was actually the movie where I think he and Steve Buscemi like got arrested in Wilmington in some sort of bar fight, which, by the way, according to my time in Wilmington, tracks. Like,
Sure.
It doesn't seem that difficult to do.
Yeah.
I almost was arrested a few times. I'm so grateful that TMZ didn't exist and that camera phones did not exist, because I would be so fucking ruined. I would be ruined. I would be a ruined person. Anyway, the point being that we should give young actors an easier time nowadays. But also the point being, they came back to Wilmington for reshoots for like 1 week, and it became my mission to try to like find Vince Vaughn. And I don't know, I wanted to like have a beer with him. It was before I knew his political views, obviously, guys. I didn't know. I just thought he was hot. And anyway, the story doesn't go anywhere. I didn't find him.
It's not too late. It's not too late. He might be at the Pig and Whistle right now.
Let me tell you something. It is too late. And I've ended up like at kid birthday parties with him sometime in the last 12 years. I can't keep any of this shit straight at this point. And I remember just thinking like, oh, God, if only I could have told 18-year-old me that I would be like rolling my eyes at Republican Vince Vaughn and like giving him the evil eye from across the room at like a kid's birthday party at my gym. Not that he even knows what I'm doing or why I'm like mad at him. It's like... Anyway, so yeah, sex clubs. I don't know, guys. I'm just saying it all seems pretty fucking lame. You know what I mean?
It's really wild. Do you tell us at home, do you have sex clubs in your town that you know of? Goth sex clubs in the back of your dining establishments? Are they, do your nerdy guys have memberships to them?
It is a thing that like nerdy dudes do, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like
any way that you can like create a hierarchy. Because like when I was reading it, it reminded me of like an improv club. It's the same shit. It's just a place where nerdy dudes can be like, in this room, there's a hierarchy and I'm at the top of it. And now I get to be mean to you.
Yeah.
It's so weird because also gross.
Yeah. It's like a phenomenon with like comedy writers, especially, but also comedic actors. The second they get like any kind of money, power, they, just use it in that way. It seems like a lot of them.
Well, it's just like reinforcing ideas, right? Like this, it all comes back to how we raise boys, I imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a way.
Yeah.
Because like the traits that we deem valuable for boys and men and what sort of girls are kind of taught in response. Oh my God, Birdie has what's it called? Sex ed. They're doing like their 6th grade like sex ed stuff. And Birdie already made them change how they were talking about it because they said that they kept talking about the genders, and Birdie raised their hand and was like, I actually believe you're talking about sex, not gender. And so you should differentiate, because they were like, yes, you're correct. You are correct.
Like, yes, you're right. This book
We were
was
talking
written
about
in
the female
1995.
sex and the male sex,
Yeah.
not gender. Cool. I don't know, but like I think that it's like it's all just deeply ingrained in that thing, you know, and that these guys who had other attributes and felt like they were dismissed, you know, then when they get their whatever power it is, like money, or, you know, they're funny so that they get successful in that world, and then they just kind of like abuse that thing. Not always, obviously.
Not always. And like everyone wants to be with someone that they find hot. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I don't begrudge anyone that, certainly. Like, I've wanted to be with someone that I find hot. It's just a weird thing.
I don't find like hot guys hot though.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Do you, Ashley?
I do.
You do. You're like, you want, you're like, I want, you're like, I want
do.
a hunk.
But also, I will say, I have dated some like really, really hot guys. They're like, I'm really hot, so I'm not. Whereas like the nerdy guy who's like trying to appear hot wants to date the most model-esque woman to like prove that he can get them. And I've dated literal models who are just like, you're nice, I like hanging out with you, because they're not like trying to prove that they can get the hottest girl.
Right.
Whoa.
Right.
That must be why I was always so like I was always so insecure. I was a bad dater. I was bad at it. I feel like I feel like I was bad at it. But I've never been attracted to like typically or whatever symmetrical. I don't know. I don't want to insult any.
I can't put this person on blast, but let me just say, one of the most famous women, one of the most famous, most beautiful, most powerful women. I won't say
in
who
the
it
world.
is. Probably in the world.
Selma Hayek.
Who, I'm not going to say who it is. I'm not going to put them on blast. Who I had occasion to be around.
I know this story. I know who it is.
I had occasion to be around pretty regularly. Was dating someone, and I ran into her and I said, oh, I saw a picture of you with the person that you're dating. He's cute. And she said, oh, do you think so? And I said, yeah. And she said, that's funny, because you know me, I like them ugly. And I was like, that's so funny to me.
That is funny.
But you just reminded me of that, because you said you don't find hot guys hot. I think it's funny too, because when you were saying like you love Vince Vaughn, I would have gone Jon Favreau,
For me,
so.
Yeah. But you know what? It also speaks to where my brain was at the time. This is like prefrontal cortex whatever hardening or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like I was 17 years old. And so yeah, like I actually do think I liked hot guys when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I like loved Leonardo, I loved Leonardo DiCaprio and I loved like Vince Vaughn. I had a poster, swingers poster, and I just thought he was so fucking hot. And I'm trying to think, who else did I love?
It's very funny. Like when you really think of like what you're attracted to, and what's attracted to you. But yeah, I mean, I've had that too, Ashley, where I've gone out with guys where I've had people express shock, like, that guy's with you? And I'm like, yep. Yep.
I'm really good at sex. What can I say? I'm not.
And you're just like, yeah, I mean.
You're like, do you see this tattoo on my face? You fucking better believe that he's with me.
And it's just like a really weird situation. And you're just like, yeah, I mean, like, I can't really explain it to you. I'm not going to defend it to you. But yeah, I know little spark plug women that date like very modelly guys. And I don't know why.
I do too. I know. I have a good friend who's just like loves a model dude. And I'm like, really? And she's like, I don't need him to talk. I'm like, whoa. That is fucking wild to me.
So I don't begrudge like wanting the hotness or whatever. I do think it's weird when it gets into like this area where I'm like, well, what's happening though? Like, does everybody have agency? Is everybody like having a good time? Are you having an actual relationship? But then I'm also like, well, it's also none of my business. So
yeah, well, I guess the point is in this sex club in the back of the Pig and Whistle, I bet they probably don't love that that's how I'm going to reference it for ever.
I mean,
for
that's
all
what
time.
it is, and it's funny.
I mean, it is just the worst part to me. It's so gross. I just feel like, yeah, like I guess you got to be careful what sex club you sign up for, is all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
It's true. It's true. You got to read the code of conduct.
Yeah, I feel like there are things, this is one of those things that in theory, it should be possible for a group of human beings to do. It should be possible for a group of human beings to have a sex club and have it be fun and egalitarian and nobody get hurt. But it doesn't seem to happen all that often. Just like you should be able to have a cult and just all worship whatever together and that be fine, but it never works out that way.
Can I tell you something? It should be possible to have a fucking chess club that goes really well, but even that shit implodes every time. So, you know what I mean? All of these things, it's really difficult to get a group of people, even a group of people that all love the same thing, coming together and like all moving in the same direction, doing the same thing.
I would say the exception was Schitt's Creek. I would say that was the exception because they just seemed like they loved each other. They loved the experience. They all won a bunch of awards.
It's true, but even that was a relatively small group, and there really were leaders on Schitt's Creek. You know, there really were just a couple cooks, and then everybody else really deferred to that leadership. But it's very difficult to have any type of group, and especially, you know, sex,
especially when you add sex right into it, guys.
Sex is very emotional, and it's about a lot of things that are very loaded, and people sometimes have a hard time being bossy, and then other people have not a hard time at all being bossy, and you know, and it gets all mixed up real fast. It can go south or sideways real fast.
Yeah. I would have been out at the face tattoo. I actually would have been out when they told me the address, and I was like, the Pig and Whistle?
That would have been the end of me.
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna be at Musso and Frank's across the street having a fucking martini like an adult. Okay? Wait, you guys, did you read the story about Kylie Jenner's makeup artist?
Yeah.
That's tragic, first of all. And like, I wish the best for that person, that they get better.
Okay, so the original thing is, so she wants to clear it up that it's not her makeup artist.
Okay.
It's a makeup artist that's friends with her makeup artist who she has worked with in the past.
So but regardless, some better points later on in this. But the point that it's not my makeup artist is not a good point, and she just shouldn't have even she actually does have better points. But that was such a weird thing to lead with. It was like, guys, it's not my responsibility. He's someone else's makeup artist. Is not.
I know. Yeah. So she shared this guy's GoFundMe and had donated like $6,000 herself. I mean, listen, she's a billionaire. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I have a hard time. I don't know. I can't. She's a child too. So I mean, well, she's not really. How old is she? She seems like a child.
No clue.
She's
frontal cortex.
She's all ages because like she's a billionaire. So she's her brain isn't grown all the way because she's like under 25.
Right.
But she's also a billionaire.
Right. So you know, because also our guest today, Dr. Harold from the Child Mind Institute, he does talk about that like
yes.
your brain isn't truly fully formed until after 25 years of age.
Right.
So like right up until I was 25, I would have fucked Vince Vaughn.
And then on that birthday, out of luck. Poor Vince. If only he found you.
But all I'm saying is just that, like, I don't know, dude. Like, I do think that there's something a little wild about, like, Kylie Jenner sharing a GoFundMe when she's only donated $6,000 to it. Like, well, it just seems...
It's... What she said was that they were asking for $10,000. They had raised $4,000. And so she donated the rest, the other $6,000, and then shared the GoFundMe, which I could see how if you're not thinking about how actions have consequences, that seemed like the right thing to do. Right. But the part about being under 25 comes in when you have to know the internet is going to drag you, even though what she did was fulfill the rest of what they were asking for. Sure. But she also could have just quietly done that and not shared it and not gotten into this controversy.
Right. And you know what they say? No good deeds.
No good deed goes
go unpunished. Wait, my friend Jenny Elliskew, and by the way, I haven't reached out to her, which makes me an asshole, but I did read a tweet of hers. But she's my friend who's a DJ on Sirius XMU, and she wrote this tweet the other day that was like, after getting injured trying to help a stranger, people can't stop saying to me, no good deed goes unpunished. It's kind of bumming me out. I'm just like looking for any stories of when you've helped a stranger and it's worked out great. And then Mark and I were sitting there and I started laughing because I was like, it's never worked out well for me.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's never worked out well for me. Truly. But you've helped a stranger, right, Caissie? And my sister, you got that email about that woman from my sister.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah. Your sister helped a woman move out of her house when she was in a domestic violence situation. Yeah.
Yes.
A perfect
And they
stranger.
were like strangers, total strangers.
Yeah.
And the woman sent the email to this Busy Phillips is doing her best email, right?
Yeah. 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 She just
to say just please tell Busy to thank her sister, which is so amazing. And it was years ago.
Yeah. She
amazing.
got her moved out of her. Yeah. So that seemed to have gone well. Yeah. I've helped people before. I have sat with people who have been in car accidents and held their hand while they waited.
I did that once and it was in Chicago. And it was negative 13 degrees.
Oh, God. Oh my God.
And me and a colleague were walking to the bus from rehearsal. We saw this car accident happen. And it was an old man who was kind of disoriented. So we're we shouldn't leave him. But we ended up waiting for 2 hours in the negative 13 degree thing. And we were just both looking at each other, making that eye contact of wow, this sucks. But while also trying to comfort and take care of this dude.
Oh, man.
I did see this woman. I think this was when we were doing Busy Tonight. I saw a woman get into a scooter accident. Do you remember that? Those scooters, that everybody,
yes,
the bird scooters. And I saw her get she just flew off of this bird scooter and she into the street. And I was like, oh, fuck me. All right. And so I ran over to help her and helped her up. And she was just like, ow, 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 ow. It sounded it was something. And she had
the
a
grape
ring.
stomp lady.
Yeah, it was the grape stomp lady, totally. And she was basically fine. And she was wearing rings and she had messed her hand up. And I was like, you have to take your rings off right now. You have to take them off or they're going to have to be cut off. I'm telling you, take your fucking rings off. So I did do that. And I was helping her get up. And there are crazy paparazzi photos. I did not realize there was a paparazzi guy. And there are crazy paparazzi photos of helping this woman who's just like, looks like she's in agony. Getting
Busy
up.
Phillips steals a woman's rings. That's the story.
Listen, you know what? We couldn't have had it stay on that finger. It would have swelled up. They would have had to cut it off. So yeah, that was, I guess, fine. Kind of funny because then I was like, it's a funny paparazzi photo. What else? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, posting GoFundMe is also dicey proposition for billionaires, I guess.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard because you want to help and you don't. It's hard. It's a hard situation all around.
Yeah, I would say it is just so hard to be a 23-year-old billionaire. I would say, one thing I would say, I just know without a shadow of a doubt, it is so hard to be a 23-year-old billionaire.
End of the day, she'll probably be okay.
She'll be okay. It is because I have people, I'm not nowhere near a billionaire, will like send me GoFundMe and be like, will you share it? And I'm like, it's tough because I'm like, I don't know. There's no way for me to vet this information. So it's like a tough call. And at the end of the day, it's like, we should be mad that we live in a country where people have to GoFundMe healthcare rather than being mad at like who shares it or not.
Right,
like it just shouldn't be happening.
Right. That's the point. Right. Or, yeah, of course. Obviously, Ashley, with the valid point. That's what we should be.
But did I expect to defend Kylie Jenner today? No. But this is where we are.
But also, like, if there are celebrities listening, you don't need to publicly donate on the GoFundMe. You can always just shoot a little money privately so that it doesn't say Kylie Jenner $5,000 on the GoFundMe, and then it's nobody's. I mostly
do an anonymous.
Nobody's business how much money you gave, and then you can just be like, I privately gave an amount, so thank you. It's none of your business.
I will say that I have shared a lot of different charity things and organizations, things that I'm involved in personally and whatever. And I do always make it a point to say that I have donated. And occasionally I will say the amount because I fucking hate when I feel like people see, but this is just my own thing. Like, I do hate when people that I follow, that I'm friends with, are like, swipe up to donate to this charity or whatever. But I know that they haven't, and that they think that that them just posting is like good enough.
Yeah.
And it annoys me.
Yeah.
But that's a personal annoyance of mine. And so sometimes people on Instagram or whatever, strangers, have been like, you don't need to put that you've donated. You're just trying to, not signal boosting. What's the word?
Virtue signaling.
You're virtue signaling. And I'm like, yeah, fucking damn right I'm virtue signaling because I want people to know that I did this thing so that I'm asking them to do, you know? I think it's like, I don't know. I think accountability is in sometimes I think accountability is good.
Yeah, I do. I have also shared some and been like, white people, this one is for you. Yeah. I don't want to see any black people donating to this thing. White people, get it together. I know which white people follow me, and this one's for you.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you know what? I probably swiped right on up. I really did. Wait, you guys, Caissie, should we talk about the crazy email escalation that I received this week? Should we even get into it, or is it too insane?
It was so funny. You kind of talked about it before. You mentioned it before, but it was so funny. Then you sent it to me.
I did mention it, didn't I?
You did, but it was really funny, like seeing it.
It's bonkers. Okay, so Ashley, out of the blue, I received, and listeners, my friends at home, out of the blue, I received an email a couple of months ago now from somebody that, like, I went to my high school, but we weren't in the same grade, but like we kind of, and that this person had gotten my email from somebody else that I'm like still friends with, like in a internet sort of way. And the email kind of weirdly sounded like a form email. It's like very formal. And it was just like, I have been working, like I'm an artist. I've been working on this independent project and I'm putting it into a book. I would love to personally send you a copy of the book. Hope you're well. And I was like, that's very nice. Thank you. Sometimes people like to send me stuff. I know that the hope probably is that like maybe I would post it, but there was no information about like where the book's, whatever. There was no information or to tag the project or whatever. I just was like, oh, that's nice. This person wants to send me their like book that they've been working on. And it was sort of like attached. I mean, I don't even know if I can get into this whole part. But anyway, then they wrote back, great, it'll be there, you know, on this date. And I was like, oh, that's intense. I've never gotten like a tracking, but okay, great, thank you. The book arrived. I was like, okay, I have a lot of stuff that's happening currently in my life and my personal life and my professional life and my brain and work. And then 2 days later, the book should have arrived safely. Please let me know that you got the book. And I was like, I kind of like saw the email, but I was just like, I'll just respond to it like after I get a chance to like look at it and whatever. 2 days after that, another email, almost the exact same email, just kindly reply that you received the book. And I was like, that's weird. I've had it for 4 days. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't love that. That's like very presumptuous. And I don't love that. So I'm just going to hold for a second. 2 days later, another one. 2 days later, another one. Another 2 days, another email. 2 days after that, another email. 2 days after that, another email. And then finally I was like, it had been like 2 weeks. And I was like, hey, dude, listen, yes, things are wild over here. And
P.S. Also everywhere. There's a pandemic going on.
Wait, listen. Hope you had a lovely week. I'm simply checking in with you regarding the book I mailed you. I look forward to hearing from you. I will be around all weekend if you briefly want to chat. Okay. It goes on and on and on and on. I appreciate that you have a hectic schedule. I appreciate your time. I will be around to chat after 2 p.m. I was like, okay, finally, after 2 weeks of this, I wrote back, the book arrived safely. Thank you. I haven't had any time to spend with it. It looks beautiful. I'm curious what kind of feedback because then at some point in the emails starts mentioning feedback. I'm like, I'm curious what kind of feedback you're looking for from me in regards to the book. And then the next one was, no worries. I know you have a hectic schedule. I'm looking for help and feedback related to promoting, increasing exposure, support for the project. Okay. What? Once you've had time to spend with the book and read my letter, I would love to chat with you about your ideas. So I looked at the book, which is like, it's essentially like a picture book. And then I read the letter from this person where it's just like, I want to do this project and I want to like raise money for these charities, but also like with anything, it's like, you know, you're also putting your name on it. So it's not like fully altruistic, let's be honest. And there was nothing specific in terms of like, there's no website. Like, I don't know there's no website, there's no Facebook, there's nothing to link to. So I don't understand what you're asking for me to do or to even really help you I don't know. I just didn't understand.
Right.
Nor do I know this person, just FYI, is the bigger issue, I guess. So then after that, it continues every 2 days.
Oh my God.
Until Saturday, I guess. This Saturday, in which I have been scolded now. I got a new form letter. I do hope that you're well. Also, by the way, what if I fucking had COVID? Do you know what I mean? What if my fucking family did? Also, who the fuck are you? Get out of my inbox, fucking creep. Sorry. Wait, but this is the part that really got me. If you're unable or unwilling to assist with the project on which I am working, I ask that you kindly return the book I sent you. I sent it to you with your consent in bold and the understanding that you were willing to help on some level with the project. I do not know if it's the case, but I feel at this point, after numerous attempts to contact you, that I am being ignored. You are.
You are, buddy.
Being ignored.
If you are, should be clear.
If you are still willing to help, please let me know. If you cannot or will not, my return address is the following. Kindly.
Guys, you got to stop turning into the Joker over asking for help. I mean, like, here's the thing.
But here's the thing. It's not your area for help.
Yeah, it's not your area of expertise. You're not a publicist. You're not a publicity firm.
No. I am like a one fucking woman show. And I can barely do this one. Do you understand? I am like holding this together with fucking glue and paper clips and like the tiniest amount of spit and a Kylie lip kit that I've had for 5 fucking years.
I just feel like people need to, and I've experienced this too, people don't ask for what they want, and then they get mad when they don't get it. Like the first email should have been, hey, Busy, I wrote a book.
Yes.
I'd love it if you would tweet about it because you're famous and that would help me sell my book. Can you do that?
And then here's the website in which I sell it at or whatever.
You could write back yes or no, end of interaction. But instead, he plays coy. I want feedback or some involvement, blah, blah, blah.
No, but that's the craziest thing. No feedback. I did this art project and I made a book of it. And I would love to personally send you a copy of said book/art project book thing that I did. And I'm like, I don't want to be a fucking dick. This guy is like made a book of some art project he did in Phoenix.
Right.
Like, I just want, okay, sure. Send me your book, you know? But with it and this letter, there was like, there's no where people can buy it. There's no like, it's just like, I'm planning on making more of these. I really want to get this off the ground.
Right.
I like want, help. Well, okay. What do you want I'm literally, what do you want from me?
Right.
Because this is like, so weird.
Somebody needs to actually teach a class in this. I think it's a really interesting and crucial lesson for creative people, probably just for anyone, in not being manipulative. You can't position something like it's a gift when it's really not, when it's a burden, actually, when you're asking for something. And then when you're asking for something, Ashley's right, you have to be specific. Like, I love so much when someone's like, hey, can you help me get the word out about something? I need you to tweet. Here's a sample tweet. You could just tweet this. You can reword it if you want, but you could also just use exactly this one. You know what I mean?
Do you know what makes me like honestly like want to make out with someone? when they fucking send me a sample tweet for their fucking charity or whatever. Like, or whatever it is that they're promoting, their TV show.
Yeah. Just so you have
a sample tweet and like a little picture that I could post.
Just do the work. Don't ask someone who's doing you a favor to do you 5 favors. Like, but also I think part of the problem is people need to be honest with themselves about what they want. Because I definitely get people will email me and be like, hey, can you read this script? You're a genius. I'd love your feedback. And I'm like, sure. What do you want? Do you want notes? Do you want me to say like, I don't put it in these terms, I'm nicer than this. Like, do you want me to say you did a good job, or do you want like actual notes? Like, what are you looking to do with this? Are you trying to staff? Are you trying to get an agent? Because those are, different things. And people will be like, yeah, I just want feedback. So then you spend the weekend reading their scripts, typing up their notes, giving them feedback, and then they're upset when they get the feedback because what they actually wanted was you to recommend them for a job. And it's like, you just need to be honest with yourself and say,
right,
what do I actually want from this interaction? I want to ask Ashley if she can help me find a job, and then ask that question and get the real answer.
This is it. And this is like, we've talked about this before on this podcast. I've come to the realization in my life, and it took me way too fucking long, that like beating around the bush, like not asking exactly for what it is that you want or need or desire will only get you a fucking headache and will exhaust everyone around you. And you have to, in order to do that, you have to be able to like reach down inside of yourself and know what it is that you're asking for. And I think that's the trick, because I think a lot of people don't even know. They can't. It's so hard for them. And especially, I do find especially women to like really sit with, what is it that I want? It's hard for me to know what I want at like California Pizza Kitchen. Do you know what I mean? Like
avocado rolls. Not hard at all, Busy.
I do love those. Wait, the weird pizza spring rolls. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the like egg rolls with the avocado in them.
The Southwest.
Oh, you're talking about the Southwest egg rolls. I love the pizza roll, like the pizza roll ups. Do you remember those?
I don't know, but that sounds like it's my jam.
So good.
Yeah. See, but the good news is we can get both. Good news. And we can share. But, you know, also, I think a lot of what we're talking about in terms of like professional, you know, professional or like colleagues or whatever. A lot of this applies at home and in friendships as well.
That's
too.
what I mean. Yes.
Yeah. So like, you know, with your kids, with your partners, with your friends, a lot of times I think we beat around the bush and we get dissatisfied because we're like, I was like, you know, kind of hinting at like what I wanted and nobody got it. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get it.
Do you guys want to hear about a breakthrough I had in therapy last week?
Yes, I want to hear.
On this very topic.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I've been having a really rough time. Ashley, I don't know if you're aware, but
I listen to the pod religiously, you guys.
I know. So you know. Things have been tough for me. And like it's also just been a lot. A lot of stuff has been really hard. Okay. I'm not gonna cry today. And last week I had a particularly hard day. And I was sitting on the High Line, which is this lovely thing. It's real cute.
It's a little park in New York that's like an elevated park.
Great place to cry in public.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, the High Line is an old railroad, like elevated railroad track that runs, it's like 2 miles, I think, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they turned it into greenery and like a park and a walkway. And it's so pretty and you can walk the whole thing and it's really nice. And sometimes I do therapy up there as I'm walking and then sometimes I sit and cry. So anyway, I was just really having a fucking moment. It was that day that I was listening to Suspended and Gaffa on repeat, which, you know, is just never a good sign. And I had gotten done with therapy and I was just so sad and I was crying and listening to Suspended and Gaffa and taking pictures of myself and then getting embarrassed that that's what I was doing. And I don't know. It was just all a fucking downward spiral. And so then Mark texted me, "What are you doing?" Because he knew my therapy had been over for a bit. And I was like, okay, in my head, this is what I was thinking. I'm really sad about a lot of things. One thing that I know makes me kind of happy is like planning for stuff. And we needed to get some tile for this bathroom in this place that we needed to get new tile for. And that's kind of fun. Even if it's like, we were just going to look for, you know, overstock tile or something, or like tile that had been returned to one of these tile places in New York, which aren't far from the High Line, you know? And I was thinking like, maybe it would be nice if like Mark left the kids with Sarah Beth for a bit and we like walked and we got and we looked at the tile and saw if there was any like good returned or overstocked tile for this project that we were trying to do. But instead I just wrote back thinking about tile. And then he was like, yeah, I mean, there are too many times during the day when I'm not thinking about tile. And then I wrote back like, yeah, you know, actually I read somewhere that like women think about tile as much as men, that they just don't talk about it. And then he was like, cool. Yeah. All right. Got it. So are you coming home or what? And like dinner. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll just come home. And I went home and I was so fucking mad, like irrationally mad at him. And just like went into the house just like, and I wasn't aware of what was happening to myself. I just was like, ugh, the worst, just the worst. And then the next day, we're talking about it in therapy. And it was a bad night. Like, it was just fucking bad. And the next day, we were talking about it in therapy. And I had the realization that what I was doing was I was like, I'm going to give you this little tiny crumb, but I'm not going to tell you what I really am thinking, because if you really know me, you're going to fucking guess it. And if you don't, you're not. And then I really can hate you. And like, that's unfair and totally bonkers. It's a test.
Yeah, it's like a test that he didn't even get to take the class.
No, he has no fucking idea. Yeah. So I think we all have to be aware of those little tests those breadcrumbs that you like leave out for your friends and your family and your partners and it's just, you got to ask for what you need. Or what you're thinking you might need, because the worst that could happen is somebody says no, and then they really don't care.
Right.
Then you know the truth. But like, if you're just offering them like a little tiny little crumb of a piece of a side of an idea, and they don't know what they're supposed to do with it, they're like, okay, well, do you want to just get like tacos or something? I can't. Yeah. I don't know what to do with this tile thing.
You're never having the real conversation, right? If you're like, you're never doing the things that I want to do. Whenever I'm mentioning tile, you're never like meeting up with me to go to the tile store. You're never having the real conversation. But if you're saying to your partner, I want to go to the tile store, and they're saying, no tile store.
Well, that's stupid. Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah. Then,
we're not going to go to the tile store.
Yes. Then you're having the conversation, and then you're having another conversation that, that's, you're getting to like the meat of like a different problem,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then you're like in it, because the answer might be, I don't want to go to the tile store right now because I'm exhausted because of this thing. Right. Now we're both talking about our thing.
Right.
Right.
Because if one person is vulnerable, it allows the other person to be vulnerable.
Right. Right.
It's a big deal, guys.
It's a big deal to ask for what you need. And also, like, it's such a huge favor to the other person, because sometimes, like, it's just, people have a lot going on in their minds. And also, like, for me, it's such a pleasure for me when, like, someone that I love asks me, can you do this for me? Like, it's such a pleasure for me to be asked, like, I don't know, it's kind of like an honor for me sometimes when someone that I love is like, can you do this for me? Or can you, like, talk to me for a second about this? Or like, can you spend a minute with me or whatever, like it's weird because I think so many times you don't want to be a burden, and you're like, how dare I ask for this thing? How dare I take up space in this person's life? And what you don't know is that, like, if this person is in your life anyway, they probably want you to take up a little bit of space at least. Mm-hmm. And so, like, for me, it's like very much an honor when someone takes up the rightful space that I'm giving them in my life and says, like, would you do this for me?
I would say especially right now, because like in this pandemic, I'm quarantined alone, as you guys know. So anytime someone's like, I'm having this problem, can I just call you and talk about it? I'm like, yes, please. I am alone. Like, talk to me for 3 hours about your problem. It's not a burden. And maybe one person might be like, I'm too busy. I can't do that right now. That doesn't mean they hate you, but there's someone in your life who's sitting at home wishing someone would talk to them for hours about a problem that's not my problem.
I agree. So guys, I hope we've all learned something. And if you happen to be the person that sent me that thing, I'm sending it back.
Yeah.
It's in the fucking mail. And I'm never responding to your email.
But Kylie Jenner would be happy to tweet about it. So,
but maybe you should reach out to Kylie Jenner. Okay. Well, listen, guys, this was delightful. Okay, so let's go through what we're doing our best at this week Caissie, would you like to go first?
Sure. What am I doing my best at this week? Well, now that the weather's like nicer, I've just been like, I'm just gonna like go for a little walk around my cul-de-sac and listen to other podcasts. So I've been listening to, I'm really excited about the Add to Cart podcast, which is our friend Kulop and Suchin. I'm going to be appearing on their podcast coming up, but they had a really special podcast this week. They did a special episode that normally is a really fun podcast about buying things and just really comedy centered. But this week they did a special episode just talking about their feelings about violence against the Asian community. And it was really touching. It's only a half hour. I totally recommend that people just listen to it so that you can hear like firsthand how they're feeling. And I'm going to be on an upcoming episode talking about an item that I'm really excited about. So I've just been walking around my little cul-de-sac like, I don't know, 10, 20 times and listening to podcasts. And every time I walk by my own house, I'm like, wow, I really hate the color that my house is painted. It's...
Do you think you'll paint it?
Yeah, I have to. I mean, it's like terracotta. Who wants a terracotta house?
I don't know. I mean,
we're really
like
abusing terracotta here in LA.
I mean, I have a mid-century modern house. It's not a fancy house, but it's like built by my second favorite architect. And it was never meant to be painted terracotta, and it's not meant to have a terracotta tile roof either. But that's what we got. But we gotta paint it because it's not meant to be painted the color of a flower pot. I'll tell you that.
What color do you want to paint it?
I don't know, because we really kind of got boned by the previous owners with that tile roof. Like we're not going to change out the roof. It's perfectly fine, even though, it's not historically appropriate for the...
Can I ask you a question? Wait, why isn't it historically appropriate?
Because it's not like, it's
like a Spanish style roof.
It's like a Spanish style roof on a mid-century modern house. It should have like a rock roof or like maybe shingles.
Oh, but it has tiles.
Yeah, it has tiles.
That's just because it's LA. Everything has tiles.
Mid-century modern fans would be horrified. So if there are any MCM fans out there, I'm sorry it came with that roof. But yeah, we're gonna...
You know why I just got silent for a second? Because then I just remembered that I wanted to check the thing that I put to try to find you one of those fireplaces.
Oh.
And so I had to check it. I had to see. I had never heard of those before you talked about it on the podcast, and now I see them everywhere.
Now you see them everywhere? I get so many messages, and people are so nice, and they always send them to me, and they're like, somebody's selling one. And it'll either inevitably be in like Maine, and I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to drive to Maine to pick it up, or it'll be like in LA, but like $3,000. And I'm like, that is very high budget.
Oh my God, wait, I just found one that's terracotta. It's actually not. It is a vintage mid-century modern one, and it's porcelain, but it's the color of terracotta. I mean, it's so ugly. Can you see it?
It's trolling you.
It looks like a troll. It's a snort. It actually looks like a snort. I love that.
Oh
this one's nice. This is a pre-way.
Yeah.
That's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Or did you want the male?
Malm.
Right.
Pre-way Malm or...
This one is $2,800.
That's, that's a little up there.
What are we looking to spend? You got to tell me what we're spending.
I mean, like, I almost got one for $100. I was like 5 minutes late on replying to the person that was selling it.
That doesn't make any sense. Where? What are we talking about?
In LA.
Where?
It was by LAX.
But here's what I'm saying to you. You have to tell me, because you're good at that shit, and I know it's like all on Facebook or whatever, and yes. I'm not on Facebook. You have to sign up for like these like upstate and like all around this area, because I can go get it. I have a car, and actually it wouldn't be me, it would be Ray, but someone can go get it. So like, just figure it out, because know that they're around here.
There's probably more there because it's cold.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
I bet you there are. In like Vermont even, we can send Ray to Vermont. It would be great for his content. Can you imagine how fucking bummed he would be?
How many times he would just break down on the way to Vermont, just like mentally and mechanically?
I don't know where to charge.
Well, what are you doing your best at, Ashley?
I knew this question was coming, and I was like, nothing.
It is the theme.
Yeah,
Truly.
I had to think really, because my first thing was nothing. I've been feeling like very unmotivated because I realized I'm motivated by like other people. So normally my job I would do in a room full of people, and you get kind of like immediate feedback about how you're doing your job, whether it's from, if you're in a writer's room, the other writers, or on stage from the audience. And without that, it's just not as motivating to like sit down and work alone. So I was like, I don't know what I did my best at because I've been so unmotivated. So this is like a little hack, I guess. I write everything in my calendar. I don't like delete things from it because I did them. I leave everything there. So I went back and looked at my calendar from last week, and I got so much fucking work done.
Oh,
I did so much work, and I worked out a ton. And I was like, here I am, like down on myself saying I'm unmotivated. I did all that stuff. I obviously motivated myself. Like I figured out.
You didn't even know it.
Yeah. So that's what I did my best at this week, was that I actually was very motivated.
But do you mind if we put your dog on blast because she is not doing her best?
She's not doing her best.
Because
does your dog have Pika?
Yes.
Do you know what Pika is? Is that what she has?
Because we wanted Ashley to come on the podcast today, and she almost couldn't because she was up late last night because her dog ate her bed.
She ate her bed. Yeah. She had... Well, and
she ate in her own bed, but also same, girl. like tell her I relate. I'm like,
she was having a rough night. She was like, she has these like bouts of pica. And so I put her in the bed in the crate so she would be safe from eating, because she was trying to eat everything. And then she ate the bed, which I should have seen coming. Like,
she ate the bed.
So she ate the
whole
bed.
fucking bed.
No, but she ate a chunk of it, which I didn't know until this morning when she threw it up. And I was walking her. So there's like, my dog is not, she's very picky about other dogs she wants to interact with. And it's like kind of caused a bit of neighborhood drama because I have neighbors who are like giving me the side eye because I won't let my dog play with theirs because I know she's going to start a fight. But then there are a few dogs that she likes, so they'll see me interacting with another dog. It makes me look like an asshole when in fact the dog is the asshole. So I'm walking past this neighbor who like kind of gives me the side eye because I don't let my dog interact with his, and I'm trying to like rush her by quickly before she can growl or something. And that's when she threw up this chunk of bed in front of this man. So he thinks I'm a crazy person. Here's this mean lady who won't let her dog play with anything and feeds her bed. That's what that guy thinks.
Oh, man.
Poor Gordy.
Okay. 2 things that I've implemented into Gina's diet that's really helped. Okay, so Gina was going through, first of all, I have a cat with Pika, and I have spent, I don't even want to tell you how many thousands of dollars worth of cat surgery.
I'm $1,000 down today.
Yeah, it's the worst. Pika's a condition. If you guys don't have pets or you don't have a pet that's had it, I certainly didn't know what it was until I had a cat with Pika. Like where they want to eat things that are not edible, like plastic and toys that are like, they just want to eat them whole. I mean, that Gildo had like an entire sponge. Gildo's a small cat and had eaten like a whole sponge. We couldn't keep anything. So now Gildo, so a lot of people sometimes on Instagram, they're like, what happened to your cats? Why aren't they ever around? They really do have to be confined upstairs into like 2 rooms so that we can just like make sure that Gildo, also they're fine with it, to be totally honest. They're fine with it. Okay. Anyway, Gina has been really getting chewy recently, and I've been bummed because I'm like, oh no. does Gina have Pika now too?
She caught it from the cat.
I swear to God. And plastic and like all this stuff. She just like, we have to get lids for all the trash cans. Poop. She started eating poop. It was a disaster. And she has like her tummy gets upset a lot too. So our dog trainer from LA recommended 2 things. Number 1 was a dog probiotic to give her, which like, it's like almost, I don't know, guys. I'm not a fucking vet. Am I? Am I?
Not yet.
Oh my God, am I a vet?
It would be cheaper if you weren't.
But the probiotic is like, because they're trying to get something. Like they need something. They're missing something, right? So there's that. And then, and this is the gross one, but I swear to God, the last 2 weeks, it's like changed our life. At the pet store, they have frozen bones with marrow. And boy, did she chow down on that little frozen marrow bone. And like the first night she did it, I swear to God, she looked like she was on drugs. Like she looked like she was raving and that she was like full blown candy flipping and her eyes were like rolling into the back of her head and she couldn't stop. And she was just like tweaking on the marrow and was so happy. And now she's kind of chilled, but she still really likes it. And she's stopped chewing on other things. She stopped taking my shoes because she wants and stopped like.
She wants the good stuff now.
She wants the marrow bone. But also, I took her to the dog park with Cricket on Sunday, and all these dogs were like really sniffing her butt. I was like, oh no.
Now they want to eat her poop.
They want to eat her poop because it's like full marrow. Like
Very
she must
high
just
quality
smell.
poop.
She must smell like a marrow butt. Like they were like really like up in it. Like sorry, this is so
looking
gross.
back at their owners like, how dare you?
Yeah. Have you smelled this bitch? Do you know what she's got? This is straight beef marrow butt. Anyway, she's really happy. She's so much happier and she's stopped chewing so much. I wish there was like a cat equivalent that I could give Gildo so he would stop eating plastic and having emergency surgery. Actually, he hasn't in quite some time. It's been about, oh God, I'm just going to knock wood because I hope that
he's on the wagon. He's tamed the beast.
I think he's doing good. I think he's doing well.
What are you doing your best at this week?
Well, I've been sticking to my working out for my mental health, and I've really made it a priority, even though I've had some days where I've been not in the mood. I've sucked it up and done it. And so there. That's what I'm doing my best at.
That's great.
And it has made a difference. And I went to this Tracy Anderson workout class, like private class. And it was so hard. And I had to change my mask 4 times. It was like, it's oppressive to work out wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not great. And the rooms are heated too there. I told the trainer girl, like, I was like, I need to dance. Like, I need to I need endorphins. Like, that's all don't worry about my butt. Don't worry about anything else. Just endorphins. And so she did just like kept doing cardio with me. And then I did some like leg and arm things. But afterwards, I came out of there and I had therapy right after. My therapist was like, you sound like a different person. Like, you sound like you're compared to what you sounded like on the podcast, which I was just listening to. And she's like,
wow.
and I was concerned.
Oh, Lord.
She's like, and now you sound like totally different. And I really think I do.
How'd she say I sounded?
Lovely. She loves you.
I just want to make sure she thought I was okay.
I had a therapist one time who didn't I don't know, the vibe was like a little weird. And then one day she came in and she was like, you're on TV. Like, she had finally seen me on TV. And I was like, yeah, what do you think I've been talking about this whole time? And she was like, I don't know. I just it seemed like you thought your job was really important. Like she just didn't get, like, I think she thought that I was like a little bit off and was like overstating.
She
like
thought you were delusional.
Yeah.
Oh my
And so
God. By the way,
like,
I hate that.
yeah,
That is
she
so
wasn't a
fucked up.
She wasn't a great therapist. We did not keep working together
No.
very much longer than that. But it was just such a weird, like, it was so weird.
That is
She
so
was like,
weird.
oh, now I believe you.
Wow.
Wow, lady. You
But
were wrong.
What you were doing good at reminded me of something else I was doing good at, which is having a really strong butt.
Do you have a marrow butt though too?
I have a really strong butt, but I lifted like 60 pounds with my butt, and
What?
who knew? Yeah, my trainer had me. You know, you do like glute bridges,
Sure.
and she had me put the barbell. You
I
put it
love it.
across your
Hips.
and do the glute bridges. And then after I did it, she was like, that was 60 pounds. So my butt is the strongest part of me by far. I couldn't lift it off myself with my arms to hand it back to her. Like,
Oh, seriously?
My butt is so much stronger than the
Oh my
rest of me.
God.
Oh my God. I was dying to know what you did with your butt to test the strength of it. So I was very curious where that was going.
Well, I then found out how much those Tracy Anderson private classes cost, and then I got real sad because I was like, this is not a sustainable endeavor for me.
You're going to be dancing on your patio.
I know. I mean, I dance. I do it at home. It's just like there's something about being in a space with a teacher who's like pushing you to just do it, you know? Like, and you just kind of, and you just get into it. Like it's hard to get it up in my, TV room.
Yeah.
In the same way.
Even though I try. Surgeries.
Right. That's right. I got to save that money.
Can you have a trainer come to your
still? I feel like it's still not the same
It's
because
not
I
the
want
same.
like the floors and I want the space. I don't have the space. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm like all crammed into this corner next to the sofa, next to windows here, and I have space heaters that I put up to try to make it warm. Like
oh,
the
you
gym,
like it hot?
Oh yeah, like Lec Fit in LA is heated, and Tracy Anderson's heated, and I just feel like. I don't know. I need this. I retain so much water. Whatever that body type is that retains like a ton of water, that's what I have.
Human.
No, mine is abnormal. You've seen it, Caissie, firsthand.
Bodies are like, what are they, like 70% water?
Yes, but you've seen, let's not, you have to back me up here.
No,
do I not retain more water than anyone that you know other than maybe Ike Barinholtz?
It's true. You do. Yes, you do have that magic trick where you can like get rid of some water.
Guys, I can gain and lose, I would say 7 pounds of water in 1 week.
Yeah.
Like I retain so much water. I retained so much water when I was pregnant with Birdie. This is not a joke. When I was 9 months pregnant with Birdie, I went to a pregnancy acupuncturist and he put the needles in my legs and water started dripping out. For real water. That's how much, like, I was retaining so much water. And I didn't have hypertension or anything. Like, I just, whatever, I don't know. There's just something about my body. I, like, went to go get some rings of mine fixed because I slam my hands against tables a lot and I deform my rings. Oh, guys, we're doing great over here. And the woman was like trying to measure my finger because she's like, these aren't even circular anymore. So I don't even know what size they are. Felt a little shady, but so she was measuring and I was like, I don't think this is going to be accurate because I could tell I was really swollen that day. And I was like, all these rings are going to be too fucking big. I know it, but I don't know.
Oh my gosh. You're going to be, when you get old, this is what it's going to be like. When I worked in the nursing home, some of the ladies that were like water retainer ladies that were
Don't
like.
tell me this. This is going to make me so sad.
Edema ladies.
I don't like this. I already don't like this.
When you would like wake them up in the morning, before you would wake them up, their eyelids would be like, you could like touch their eyelids and like an ocean wave would go across their eyelids.
Ew.
Like it would be like a giant blister.
Why were you touching their eyelids?
To see it do that.
Wait, listen. I don't think so. I think I'll be like my grandma Moot. I think I'll look like her. She didn't have terrible edema when she was an old lady. I'm going to live to be 106. So
right.
We'll see.
All
right.
No,
well,
thanks.
let's get to our interview. I felt like, I know this isn't the usual doing our best interview, because normally we really talk about pivots and stuff with our guests, but I just feel like the mental health crisis in children, teens, young adults in this country right now is and we're not wrong, because we talked to an expert about it, that it's just that it's really something that like we need to keep talking about as much as we can, and we want to give as many people resources as possible in order to facilitate them being able to get kids and teens and young people in their lives any help that they might need. And so Dr. Harold, who's the president and founder of the Child Mind Institute here in New York City, wrote a really great parenting book called The Scaffold Effect, which I'm trying to implement some scaffold parenting here in this house. But we wanted to have him on to like just chat about this time and the effect that it's having on our kids. I know that a lot of parents listen to this podcast, and I know that a lot of people listen to this podcast who maybe don't have kids yet, or may never have kids, or still kind of feel like kids themselves. And this has just been like a very tricky time mental health wise. And we wanted to chat with Dr. Harold, and he's a very interesting person and has a lot of stories.
A real character.
A real character.
Ooh.
He's a real character, Ashley.
We love a New York character.
He's a real New York character. But also just like putting it out there that this is just like a normal thing that we have to talk about. I know it's hard for adults to talk about their mental health. We have to like start talking to all of our kids about it as well, because this is a thing that affects literally almost every kid out there, and especially right now, especially in this time. And so that's all guys. That's our interview today. And it is really funny and interesting. And I did text Caissie in the beginning, this might be my favorite interview we've ever done. So let's take a listen. We're so excited to be talking to you today. Dr. Harold Koplewicz is joining us. Now, Harold is the president of the Child Mind Institute here in New York, and has a new book called The Scaffold Effect: Raising Resilient, Self-Reliant, and Secure Kids in an Age of Anxiety. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on today, Harold, is first of all, I love the book, and I'm trying to implement some scaffolding parenting myself. We've got miles to go. The scaffold is maybe made of toothpicks and
no, we
Elmer's
need support
glue at this
and structure, encouragement. But busy. I watch, I participate, I look and listen to your podcast, and the fact that Cricket recently was showing you her painting, I think you're scaffolding your daughter.
Thank you.
Because remember, it's not only that success can be an option, failure can be an option. We want our kids to try new things, to get out of their comfort zone, go into their growth zone. And Cricket certainly is risking and going into her growth zone all the time. So
yeah, I actually have to say that that's been a big thing for Cricket. She's definitely my kid who suffered a bit from the like not wanting to fail thing, and and being afraid to even like ask questions because she didn't want to fail. You know, she didn't want to ask the wrong question. And she was a little bit younger in her grade in school, and I think that had something to do with it. And also she was in a school previously before we got to New York where they really like tracked the kids out in kindergarten for like reading and math so that they could meet the kids at their levels. But also what it did was that it put this weird pressure on the kids because they felt like it meant something if they were like not in the top reading group, like the best readers or the best ones at math. What do you feel about that kind of thing?
So I think it all depends on how it's done, right? I think that all of our kids have deficits, weaknesses, and strengths, right? And as parents, we try to minimize the deficits. So we get a reading tutor, or we even get them a baseball coach. You know, you have a klutzy kid, you go into the backyard and you keep throwing the ball so that you increase the chances of the ball getting into the mitt. And when, you know, do you remember that movie Parenthood where Steve Martin has this very quirky, odd kid and he keeps throwing the ball, and there's the famous game, the Little League game, and his quirky, odd kid puts his glove up, and by chance, the ball goes into the glove, and the kid wins the game. And Dad makes a special, winning dance, and the mother says to him, "Nothing has changed. He's still a quirky kid. He still needs to go to therapy. It's just that you increase the chances of the ball getting into his glove because you went out in the backyard and you threw it to him 1,000 times." That's a scaffolding parent. That's a parent who says, "I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to structure you. I am going to support you. But I'm also going to recognize that you do need some help here, that you are not a natural athlete. And since it's easier for kids who play sports than kids who don't play sports, I'm going to help you with that." And so that's a good example of that. And I think the same thing happens in school. I think there's nothing wrong with pointing out which kids need more help with reading and which kids seem to be gifted in math. It's just that if you don't do it in a careful way, you can really hurt your kid's self-esteem. I mean, our middle son had terrible dyslexia. We thought we were really taking care of it. We took him to a speech and language person when he was 4. And then when he was in 3rd grade, and a reading tutor. And in 3rd grade, he punched another kid in the nose. And we were called because they said he was aggressive. And he wasn't really an aggressive kid. And when we spoke to him about it, he literally said to us, someone called me stupid, and I am stupid. I was 2 steps behind everyone in reading, but I was always 2 steps ahead of everyone in math. And they've turned math into reading. And what he was talking about is word problems, right? So quite clearly, and then the best part is he says to us, and the smart kids are in the hawks, and the stupid kids are in the sparrows, and I'm in the sparrows group, and hawks eat sparrows. And I'm thinking, you're not the stupid kid. The teacher's an idiot. Who names the slow readers sparrows and the fast readers hawks? But what was worrying to us was that his self-esteem was going to be damaged. There's nothing wrong with telling your kid the truth and saying reading is hard for you. That's why we're going to practice. That's why we do reading all the time. And math is really easy for you, so you don't have to practice this as much. So I don't think tracking is the problem. I think it's the way we message it to our children, and so if you think you're in the sparrows and everyone is a hawk, you're afraid you're going to be eaten. It's not good for your self-esteem.
At this point, because of the way that the education system is, we have a lot of our listeners are parents. A lot of our listeners have young kids. A lot of our listeners have preteens.
And a lot of our listeners are dealing with past educational scars.
That's right.
Even people who aren't parents are dealing with things that happened to them in the educational system where they're like, that kind of messed me up when I was a kid.
Right. And I have to tell you, it's interesting because we're talking about scaffolding. I hate parenting books where the expert is shaking his finger at you and making you feel totally inadequate. So I made a point of putting in all my foibles, all the things I screwed up. And it's under the category, do not do this at home. And I have 3 sons, and one of my sons is socially very reticent. He's 37 years old. He doesn't believe in chit chat. He tells me I tell too many anecdotes, stick to the point, and he said to me that, when he was in 5th grade, he came home and he announced to his mother and me that he was going to perform a dance with his best friend, Adam, in front of the entire Thanksgiving Day assembly in middle school. I couldn't think of a worse idea. I was thinking, I have patients that are talking about the traumatic scars they feel from one of those terrible, embarrassing moments. And he said, no, it's going to be great. It's going to be a homage to Michael Jordan. I love Michael Jordan. He had posters of Michael Jordan. And Adam and I are going to do it. And my wife, who's just as socially reticent, she says, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I think, why don't you just perform surgery on the stage? Because that's how bad this is going to be. And a few days before, 3 days before the assembly, he comes home and he says, Adam is backed out. I said, well, it wasn't meant to be. Not everything we plan happens. And he says, no, I'm going to do it by myself. I've been working with the dance instructor and she's helped choreograph it. I can't think of a more horrible idea. The whole thing is just making
you're like parent Harold, not the doctor Harold. Right. You're literally like, this is terrible and I can't let my kid do this.
And thankfully, that was my inside voice. My outside voice was silent. I kept shaking my head. And there goes my socially reticent wife saying, oh, I'm sure it's going to be great. So the day comes. I'm clearly at the hospital seeing patients. My wife actually teaches at the school. She's an art teacher at the school. I call her a few hours later, and she says, it was amazing. He just performed. Everyone loved it. You wouldn't believe how much stage presence he has. Okay, fast forward 20 years. This is in the book. It's his 30th birthday. His friend Elias stands up and says, hi, my name is Elias. Everyone knows Joshua is my best friend. I love Joshua. And that's the only reason, since I hate public speaking, that I'm willing to stand up and say happy birthday. But Joshua doesn't know that the first time I laid eyes on him was at the Thanksgiving Day assembly when he was in 5th grade and I was in 4th grade. And when they announced that Josh Koplewicz from House 52 was going to do an interpretive dance in honor of Michael Jordan, even in 4th grade, I knew this was social suicide. And yet,
oh my God.
and yet the stage was dark. A spotlight came on Joshua. He was wearing a baseball hat backwards, a Chicago Bulls basketball baggy outfit. He had his head down. And within a minute, he started spinning. He flipped over. Crisscross was playing in the background. And everyone was on their feet screaming, go, Josh, go, Josh. And then I saw him on Monday after Thanksgiving, he says, and there he was holding too many books, his head down, walking unobtrusively through the hallway. And Elias said, I spoke to my parents so many times about how brave Josh was to do that. And I thought to myself when I was listening to this, and I put it in the book, if I would have said, don't do this, you can die from embarrassment, which we know you can't, or that failure is an option. It's okay. If it doesn't work out, you'll stand up and do it again. He not only was great for himself, it was a real Napoleon Dynamite moment, but it was also really important for all these other socially reticent, nerdy kids in the school who said, Josh could do something brave. And I think that as parents, we want to protect our kids. It's in our DNA and we want to fix it. And that's not the way to get a resilient child. Scaffolding is the exact opposite of swooping in and being a helicopter.
And I think that there's a whole generation of parents like my age now who are dealing with this idea of not wanting to be a helicopter parent, but at the same time also wanting to protect their kid. And like in my particular instance with my 13-year-old, I had, without getting like too much into details, but we've had a really interesting few years, and Birdie came out, and when they came out as gay at their old school, there was a lot of bullying around it and it wasn't handled well. But Birdie, like being resilient, decided they wanted to run for president of their grade. And Mark and I also had the conversation, like, is this going to be one of those situations where we need to protect our kid? There's a difference between, what I'm trying to say is that these kids are dealing with some really serious issues as well. And there's a difference between protecting your child from like real harm, because there is the opportunity for real harm, like from some of what's happening out there in the world, or a dance on a stage, or even Birdie standing up and giving the speech to be president, which wasn't harmful.
Yes. I think the difference is that if you remember when you're on an airplane, the flight attendant always says when the air pressure drops put the mask on yourself before you put it on your kids. It's very hard for us to do that. It feels like I have to protect my child first, not myself. And I think that if we can stand back a little bit and say, what is the risk to my child? It's going to be some more embarrassment. It might be failing a math test. And after they've studied really, really hard for it, and they still get celebrated for the effort, but then we figure out and we brainstorm with them. We don't fix it. We don't take the test for them. We don't tell them, don't tell anyone you're gay, or don't be proud and stand up there. Don't take the risk of running for office. We really are there to the whole concept of a scaffold is not only support and structure and encouragement, it's also that we stand on planks. And the plank should be patience, awareness, warmth, dispassion, which I bet you busy. I know Harold's not very good at, which means don't get overly enthusiastic. Don't cheerlead too much. Don't blow too much smoke. And then don't catastrophize. And last, monitor. So the business with dispassion is your kid has a fight with someone. When someone hurt one of my boys, I was ready to take a contract out on that kid. I wanted that kid hit and hit hard. And when 2 weeks later they were friends again with my son, I felt like, what happened? The contract didn't work? I wanted that kid eliminated. That's not dispassion. Dispassion is you hold back and you help your kid negotiate with people who he has fights with or she has disagreements with. And he doesn't have to be friends with everyone, but that's really hard because there's part of us that just so much wants to protect the kid that we don't want that. And inevitably that takes away from independence. Because if you tell them, don't run for office, or if I told Josh, don't do that dance, they become risk adverse. I mean, what you want is not to swoop in. You want to give them a whole bunch of tools and hope they pick the right tool at the right moment when they're in trouble. Hard, not easy.
Well, it's hard. It's not easy. I really appreciated in the book when you're like, it's fine to think your kid's an asshole at times.
I want to give you full transparency. I did write that, and then Audible asked me to read the book. And so it took 4 days. Your voice is too low. It should be, that's not pronounced the correct way. You said boys, you mean boy. I mean, for someone who doesn't do this professionally, it was challenging. And then that sentence came up. Sometimes we have to admit our kids can be assholes. And I said, oh my God, did I really write that? And I went and I pulled the book and said, yes, it's so much better when you wrote it and you read it than say it out loud. But then I thought about it. It's so true. All of us love our children, and you shouldn't call your child an asshole. But
no, and you make the distinction in the book. I want to be clear. It's not okay to call your kid names, even in the moment when they're
acting like they're right.
One. You have to have that dispassion. Right. That's the thing I've struggled with my whole life. But I really feel like, honestly, in the past year, I'm getting it. Where you have to have the dispassion, and then, an hour later you can call your partner or your spouse or you tell your therapist, your own personal therapist. But, it is hard.
I've always found it really helpful when my kids have been assholes in the past, because I'll tell you, to be honest, because that's the moment when I'm like, you know what? They are people. They're their own people. And I'm an asshole sometimes, and they're an asshole sometimes. And this is a good time to go to our own corners and talk to each other later when we're all not being our own people so forcefully.
So it's really interesting. You said go to your own corners. There's a story in the book. I mean, I talk about patients a lot, and the patients have all become pieces of different patients. You really want to protect their identity. I used my son's real stories. And in the book, it says I got permission from everyone. It's a lie. I did not get permission. I did not get a permission from my children. I figured if they want to sue me, go ahead, sue me. I'll apologize. Because I knew if I asked for permission, they would say no.
They're going to get it from you eventually, Dr. Koplewicz.
Right. So sooner than later. Anyway, there's a point where we get a phone call about our youngest son. He's in 8th grade. And for those people who are listening who have more than one child, you know that when your first child falls, you run and you pick them up and say, are you okay? When your second child falls, you walk over, you dust them off, and you say, you're fine. When your third child falls, you scream out and say, come here, you're all right. And when your fourth child falls, you don't even know they fell.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like, so there's benign neglect. And here we have this very happy-go-lucky, socially engaging kid. And I get a phone call in March, right before spring break, from a colleague and a friend. And he says, Harold, I have to tell you, I've been trying to reach you. On Wednesday, I was at a dinner party and someone told me that Sam and two of his friends were either completely wasted, drunk or stoned at a party on Saturday.
Oh my God.
And I said, you must be mistaken. It can't be Sam, which is not what you're supposed to say. And he said, Harold, I love you. You introduced me to my wife. I hope that if this ever happened to Katie or Jake, you would call. But I'll give you the names of the people who told me, but I'm telling you, it sounds accurate. So I hung up the phone. I started thinking about it. And I remember on Saturday night when we left the house, everything seemed cool, but something could have happened. I was kind of disappointed because I really had the most open relationship with my third kid. He was the talker. And he made this whole promise about marijuana, that he wouldn't smoke marijuana until he graduated high school. And here he really got wasted. And so I call my wife, I tell her, and she said, oh, they must be mistaken. It can't be Sam. And I said, no, it was Sam. I think you should just tell him he's grounded, because I had an evening meeting. And she said, you got to be kidding. Come home. I'm not doing this by myself. And so we get home and I say, we know everything that happened on Saturday night. You can get into more trouble or less trouble. You have to tell us the truth. You can see tears are in his eyes. And I said, and by the way, you've lost my trust. Oh my God. And in this moment, you're thinking, this really hurts me more than it hurts him. I want to punish him. I'm so upset. And he says, I drank vodka. I said, okay. What about marijuana? He said, no, I promised you I wouldn't smoke marijuana. Okay. My wife says, where did you get the vodka? One of my friends brought it over. My wife says, how much did you drink? He says, 3 shots. My wife says, we don't have any shot glasses. What did you use as a shot? Orange juice glasses. So
Lord.
He had 3 big glasses of orange juice. I felt myself so upset, so angry, that I remember saying to him, let's go to our own corners and there will be a consequence, but we're not going to talk anymore right now. And we had to think about, the fact that A, he drank vodka, and B, that he broke our trust. And the punishment didn't kill him. We basically told a very social kid that he was grounded for a month, and that if he wasn't put in his room, but he had to hang with us. So he had to go to dinner with us or to a movie with us. And he certainly knew that if he ever did it again, the consequence would be greater. I have to tell you, I called the other parents. He was very upset about that to tell them. And one of the parents said, oh, they did it again? And I remember saying to the mother, Beth, what do you mean? She said, oh, they did it in December at Christmas time. I said, you didn't tell us? Oh, they were just being kids. And I was so annoyed with her. I almost said, and that's why they have parents, because they're not supposed to be drinking at 13 or 14, vodka. And the fact that you let it go and didn't tell us and didn't give us the courtesy, if you want your kid drinking, that's okay. But it shook us for a few reasons. A, I was embarrassed. You mean I was embarrassed? I'm the child psychiatrist in the village. People are talking about me, telling me that I'm a bad, like craziness. It was about him, and also about the fact of, did we have good communication? Could we trust him? Could we, what happens the next time? And by the way, it turned out to be a really teachable moment. Even though there was a punishment, he was the guy who, when girls got drunk in high school, he was the one who took them to the emergency room. He was the one who made sure they got home, even if it wasn't his date. He recognized that this was, we had a conversation saying you could get so seriously ill from that level of vodka that you can get alcohol poisoning. He took it to heart, and it really made him more responsible. He's 32 years old now, and he still smokes marijuana, but that's not here nor there. But
he kept his promise.
Right.
Beth, if you're listening, that was not the move.
You should have told.
Beth really blew it.
Come on.
Yeah,
Beth blew it.
I know. I was gonna say that I had a moment like I was proud of parenting recently in the past few weeks. And then I've had lots that I'm not proud of. But I did say one of my kids made a real bad error in judgment. And I'm not going to put on blast which one. You can probably guess. Anyway, and I said, And they felt so, like, my kid felt so bad about it and was like, I knew it was a bad idea. That's what, I knew it was a bad idea. I knew it was stupid. I'm so stupid. And I was like, you're not stupid. You're a human. We all do things at one point or another that we know we really shouldn't be doing. But what determines what kind of person you really are is how you handle yourself immediately after. And you came to us and you have remorse and you asked us to help you fix it. And like all of those things make me feel really good about you. This isn't the last time that you're going to do something stupid. I mean, I do stupid stuff like at least once a week. Caissie, what would you say?
Twice? Both of us are
twice a week,
stupid stuff all the time.
3 times a week.
Yeah,
I'm doing stupid stuff. But just for me, the important thing is like that that my kids understand that like what immediately, like, yes, let's try to make better decisions always, of course. But
also it's a perfect model, Busy, in the respect that parenting is the only sport that you have redos all the time. You don't get a redo in football, or you can't redo your serve in tennis. I mean, you could do mulligans in golf and stuff, but then people don't like playing with you. You do get to say, I made a mistake. I'm going to redo that. I was too harsh, or I was too lenient. I didn't take this seriously enough. And you go back and you say to your kid, I'm sorry, I handled that poorly. Let's do that again. And that's perfectly all right. First of all, it's a good model for your kids to see that when you make a mistake, you admit it and you redo it. So that's important. And the fact is, there's always a chance to redo the blueprint. So that just because you haven't been scaffolding all along doesn't mean you can't help the kid build a good building tomorrow. I have this whole thing that it's so hard now during COVID, but I try to explain to parents, we are negative trackers. By nature, we can tell you what's wrong with this picture. And if you change that and say, let me track all the behavior, let me catch my child being good. Let me find 3 good things and say, thank you for setting the table. Thank you, Bertie, for telling me that terrific story. I needed a laugh. Thank you for cleaning up. Even, I asked you and you did a really good job before you say one negative constructive criticism. So catch your child being good 3 times. Now, what will happen is your kid is starting, after 2 weeks, will start giving you more and more good behavior because they love hearing praise like that, specific praise. The first thing the kid is going to say, someone stole my mother, who's the body snatcher who took my mother, because where is that witch who was constantly telling me stop chewing with my own, put the napkin in my lap, all this insignificant nonsense that we focus on. And it's good for spouses to do. Try saying 3 positive things for every one time you want to criticize your spouse. And the other thing that is really important is that if you change that, well, then you can change the trajectory of your relationship, right? You don't become a nitpicker. Right. You're looking for the stuff that they do good.
And this is why I really think this book is so great. And I'm going to start doing some scaffolding things. And I actually am making Mark read it too, because we're in the homework fight, right. Currently. And guys, if you're at home and you also are in the homework fight, who's not in the homework fight, I guess, is the question at this point. But there's some real practical ways to kind of deal with it and de-escalate it, which I'm looking forward to implementing in my home. Harold.
Yeah, I'm glad. And then you have my telephone number, so if it doesn't work, you're going to call me. But the piece that I think is really quite important is when we think about parenting, it is a journey, right? And there's going to be some bumps in the road. There are going to be kids who get depressed, and there are going to be kids who have learning problems. And there are going to be catastrophes like COVID where we just have to step back and reevaluate. So, for instance, I think all parents should reevaluate their expectations for their kids' academic achievement during COVID. The good part is that kids under the age of 24, they will bounce back. They will learn faster. These learning losses, if you come from the middle class or upper class, the schools will fix this for you.
How do we help kids that are in underserved communities? Yeah. Like, if you are someone of privilege, what can we do?
So we're working now with we're in conversations with the governor of California, and also we worked with the entire New York City public school system, talking to them about what's a good toolkit that we should have for every teacher and for every parent, a digital toolkit to help them with reentry, because it is not going to be a piece of cake for everyone. There's going to be a whole bunch of kids who are going to be overwhelmed with how much learning they haven't had. And I think there's going to be a lot of kids who are socializing are going to be very difficult. So kids who were separation anxious to begin with, the kids who were too clingy to mom and dad and always had trouble going to school, well, now they're exposed to separation again. The kids who are socially anxious, who worry about looking they're pathologically self-conscious, they've been home. They don't have to worry about that. So there's going to be a good 20% who are going to have trouble psychologically. It's going to be a very long tail. And there's going to be at least 20% and maybe more in kids of poverty who are going to have that learning loss, which, I think there should be summer school. I think we should use our tax dollars, and public schools should offer a summer school option to give you that kind of boot camp, academic boot camp. I think that, there should be study hall clubs this fall in most public schools, because for a lot of kids who are barely holding on with too many kids in the class, too few teachers per student, I worry that some of those kids just let go and they don't come back. My wife teaches, and watching her remote teach 15, 10-year-olds, this is a reality show. Jason, where did you go, Jason? He fell off the screen. Or another kid, the camera's not on. I mean, this is going to be tough.
Well, look at us trying to start the beginning of this podcast. Imagine being a teacher. I don't know if this is unique to me. I feel very in touch with who I was as a child. I don't know why that. I feel like I can just reach back and remember what it was like to be 7, 10, 12, 15. And I just feel like it was like being in the sea all the time. You know what I mean? And
yes.
You're just floating, and sometimes you can grab onto something for a minute. And so I've been thinking a lot about kids going back out into the sea.
I would tell you that most kids will be okay.
Yeah.
So the kids under the age of 5, this is a holiday. They get to spend so much time with mom and dad. There isn't one child, a 4-year-old, saying, "Oh, I miss daycare." Mm-hmm. No one's saying they miss daycare. They love being with mommy and daddy. Right. And 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds may be struggling with some distance learning or these hybrids. This is not as easy as having a teacher in the classroom touching you on the shoulder and saying, "Come on, pay attention," or "Let's try this again." But the kids who took the biggest losses are 13 to 24-year-olds. Right. They're not getting their junior prom back. A kid who's been working his ass off to become the quarterback, varsity quarterback, or make the varsity team, the tennis team, or get onto the soccer team, that's gone. We're not giving that back to them. Yeah. Or the first date, or the first kiss, or getting into that clique you wanted to, or the math team. Geeky, nerdy, sporty, jockey, it doesn't make a difference. You lost. And we, as parents of teenagers, have to be very honest with them that this is worse for them than it is for us. Because when we look back on this, it'll be a terrible time. It'll be like the Great Depression or World War II or World War I, but it's a blip. And for the 13 to 24-year-old, and if you went to college, this is ridiculous. You go to college, even if you're living in a dorm, you're doing your classes on a screen. What happened to hooking up?
Yeah. Both of my sons, my younger son lost his senior prom, his graduation, his freshman year of college. My older son lost his junior year and senior year of college.
Well, I have to tell you, I have a whole bunch of patients who tell me that they're going to stay away from their parents. They're in their 20s. And they're not going to go near their grandparents, but they're hinging and bumbling, and they're doing. And I said, they say, "Dr. Koplewicz, you look so unnerved." I said, "Not only do I need you to wear a condom, I want you to wear a mask." I mean, what are you talking about?
But this is my question to you, because I do think, I know I see it with my teenager, preteen-ager. I mean, really a teenager. But I have so many friends who have kids that are starting, 12 and then up, and like Caissie's. And I am really concerned. Like, I've heard more really scary stories in the last, I would say, 4 months. 4 months. Like, it's almost like a lot of kids really, and teenagers, really powered through. And now everybody's kind of hit a wall. I feel like I hit a wall. You know what I mean? And I've heard a lot of really upsetting stories about kids being suicidal.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. This is a major stressor. Your adolescent. So the most common illnesses of childhood and adolescence are mental health disorders. So there are 17 million kids in the United States who have or have had a mental health disorder before the age of 18. There's 15,000 kids who had cancer. There are 200,000 with diabetes and 7 million with asthma. So these are the most common. It's 1 out of 5, which means if it's not any...
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait. Harold, wait. Tell me again. Mental health, how many kids?
Mental health disorders are 17.1 million. Wow. Asthma is 7 million. Peanut allergies is 7 million. Diabetes is 200.
And cancer, and what is cancer?
15,000. So when we started the Child Mind Institute, the model was St. Jude's. I love St. Jude's Children's Hospital, a small hospital in Memphis, Tennessee with 78 beds, which 55 years ago put a laser focus on childhood leukemia, pediatric leukemia. And they made it so that 94 out of 100 kids now live who had pediatric leukemia. But they also made cancer less scary. And I thought, I need to develop a St. Jude's for childhood mental health disorders. And that's what the Child Mind Institute is, an independent nonprofit that's laser focused. The only difference is that everyone has this. Everybody listening to your podcast knows and loves one of these kids, because if it's not your son or daughter, it's your niece or nephew, or it's your best friend from college's kid, or it's your daughter's best friend. So the fact that the majority of these kids don't get help, is outrageous, because these are real, they're common, and they're amazingly treatable. They're so much more treatable than if any one of the three of us got depressed tomorrow. Depression in adults is serious, and you usually have to take medicine for a very long time. Depression in your teen years is much more frequent for teenagers than adults, but nevertheless, 12 weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy with a low dose of an SSRI, Zoloft, Prozac, Lexapro, 81% of the kids get better. Well, there's nothing that has that kind of treatment response. So the problem is you have to be able to diagnose this. You have to be willing to accept your kid has the problem, and you have to go find someone that knows how to do the treatment, knows how to do an evidence-based treatment like cognitive behavioral therapy, and knows that you have to give a low dose of these medicines, and you have to be patient and watch the kid carefully. That seems to me to be criminal that we're not doing this, and we have a suicide rate that jumped from 5,000 to 6,120 deaths before COVID, and it just jumped again. And we have 1.2 million teenagers showing up every year in emergency rooms for suicidal thoughts and suicidal behavior. That means 2 kids every minute. So this country, the only silver lining, as far as I'm concerned, of COVID is that we're talking about children's mental health. And one of the things in the book I do in Scaffold is say, this is normal, this is a problem, this is a disorder, because parents have trouble.
Yeah, I love that. Guys, Harold wrote these little things out, which is like, is it rambunctiousness or ADHD? Normal. And then you list these things that like are within the range of normal. Problem. This might be a problem. This is, disorder. And then you list the things that would sort of indicate it. Listen, this is not for you to diagnose your kid. It's just for you to like have information so that you can,
if you have a concern, you have a red flag,
and get help. Yeah.
And that's the other silver lining. Telemental health. It's not going to disappear. The Child Mind Institute before COVID was seeing 200 kids a day in California and New York in person. Yesterday, we saw 310 kids online on a screen, and we saw 28 kids in person. So we're seeing more kids than ever before. I mean, there's a real problem. We're reaching overcapacity. But the fact that you can get on a screen and get evidence-based treatment, get a diagnosis and get a treatment plan, and your kid doesn't have to travel, and there's less stigma because you don't have to be in a waiting room. Hopefully, this will become a very important component post-COVID of the way we deliver this care. I think it could be the democratization of children's mental health care in the United States, because so many kids don't have access to it. Because I assure you, Busy, no one thinks that when their kid is born, they're going to go to a mental health professional. They think about orthodontia or maybe a broken bone, but they never think, oh my God, my kid's going to have to see a shrink. and to help them.
I mean, I did, but I'm an actress.
Well,
Okay.
I can say
like it was a given.
Dr. Harold, I can say that in my family we had some issues with childhood depression, and at the time it was really hard to even find out where to start, to just even find anyone to talk to us at first.
And also to find someone who knows what they're doing.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry. So the numbers are terrible. There's only 8,500 child psychiatrists in the United States. And a lot of them don't want to see little kids, and a lot of them don't want to work past 5 o'clock. You know, child psychiatry gets practiced a lot from 4 to 8 after kids come home from school, right?
Right.
So you really have to love this. I happen to tell you, I'm considered an old child psychiatrist because I'm over 60, and I still would become a child psychiatrist in a New York minute. Where else do you get to change the trajectory of a kid's life? That if you make the right diagnosis and give them the right treatment, they can go on. And by the way, because I do enough TV, you know, a few times a year, I had a man who's 50 years old, who's the head of the urology department at a hospital somewhere in the South, who saw me on television and said, I just wanted to reach out to you. I'm sure I was one of your first patients. I was 15 years old. And I still remember some of the stuff you said to me. And I'm so glad you still have a mustache. I have one too. But I really, where do you get someone to thank you for what you did for them? And that it was really obviously a meaningful, I actually remember him. You really get to touch someone's heart. So I don't get to surgery, but I get to change lives.
I mean, I just have to say, I want to say this so that my listeners can hear it. Like, I think that, you would think, I obviously, work in Hollywood. I have connections. I know fancy people. Whatever. Trying to find a therapist for my kid who would do after school hours. They're like, oh, I could see 10 a.m. on Wednesdays. I'm like, well, that would be hard because I believe that's social studies. Trying to find a therapist that would do CBT or DBT with my kid because they weren't old enough. Oh, we don't start CBT or DBT until 15. Like, well, okay, that's not going to help me. I need, you know what I mean? And DBT is dialectical behavioral training, right?
So
and then CBT is cognitive behavioral.
Let's help the audience out. So
therapy.
CBT is the way you think affects the way you behave, which affects the way you feel. And so I'm a fat pig. No one likes me. I feel awful. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to go to school. And if you could get that kid to jog around the reservoir, maybe I'm not a fat pig. Maybe some beta endorphins are surging in my head, or maybe if I take a shower, or maybe if I could study a little bit. And it's a very manualized approach, and it really works. It works in about 3/4 of the kids who participate. But it's not just supportive therapy. It's not psychoanalytic. It's not telling you that your mother didn't suckle you the right way or she wiped your rear end too hard or too soft. None of that nonsense. It is really about the here and now. Now, DBT turns out to be Zen Buddhism meets cognitive behavioral therapy. So I hate myself. I want to die. I'm so depressed. And the dialectic is to say, it's okay. You can live with that feeling. Let's live with that feeling together. Let's ride that wave together of awfulness, of hating yourself, because 10 minutes ago you weren't feeling so bad. So we'll ride that wave, and you'll learn that that wave's temporary, that feeling is not something you have to live with. And it's done in groups. And again, very manualized. You really have to know what you're doing. Not everyone can do it. And it's done again. You are monitoring how is the kid doing. Plus, the kid's allowed to talk to the therapist every day. So if you have a bad feeling, you have to hold the bad feeling till 6:30, because from 6:30 to 7:30, you can have 10 minutes with the therapist every day. And after a while, you don't want the 10 minutes. So it is really a here and now kind of treatment versus what I went through psychoanalysis, as part of my training, where I lied on a couch and free associated. The treatment wasn't going to end until the analyst died. I mean, it was like I was never going to get better.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think people know about talk therapy, right? But they don't necessarily know that there's like skill building therapies that can help, especially and have good results with kids and teens and young adults, and then also just adults. And I do feel like we need to encourage more people to go into this, first of all.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
we don't have enough. We do not have.
I feel like, Caissie, your son would be great. He would be a great
He's thought about
child therapist.
He's like, what if I was like a hiking therapist? Is there like a therapist that like hikes and does therapy with me?
Wait, by the way, first of all, do you know that I have a friend in Los Angeles who has a hiking therapist? It's his whole thing.
But is the therapist helping him get to become a better hiker, or hiking is just the activity they do while they talk?
He's like,
they hike and do therapy, right? Yeah.
He's like, he thinks he could be a therapist if there was like a physical activity that you did while you were there.
That's kind of refreshing.
Therapy. There's also,
because most therapists are not all that fit. This hiking therapist sounds like he could be a fit therapist.
I like it.
He's like maybe like surfing, bike riding, something.
No, there's a tennis therapist in LA too.
Interesting.
Do you know that, Harold? Have you ever heard of the tennis therapist?
No, but it does sound. I'm sorry, it does sound very LA. You know,
it's super LA,
not New York at all.
Harold, please. We went for the interview at our kids' school. Went for Zoom for an interview with the kids' school when I found out we're going to stay here for the year, and we're like, let's try to get him into school. And I got on the Zoom with the head of admissions or whatever, and he's like, well, tell me about your kid. And I was like, they're just like the most magnetic person, and they're really fantastic, but could use some help in like motivation. And so the guy started laughing. He's like, I got to tell you, never in New York have I had an interview with parents like this before. He's like, New York parents come in here and they're like, our child is perfect. They're a genius. You can look at their SAT scores. They've never had any issues or any problems.
But they're 5 years old.
Perfect.
But they've taken the SAT. So let me just share.
Right, totally.
So I want to share with you that part of my job before I was at the Childmind Institute, I started something called the NYU Child Study Center, and I had to start fundraising. So I go to these fancy dinner parties, and you sit to a lady to your left, a lady to your right, and they tell you stories. And 20 years ago, someone, my son invented penicillin. Oh, my son won the Nobel Prize. And I mean, my kid has a reading tutor. And I would go into the elevator with my wife and said, how is it that we always get stuck with the dumb kid? I mean, a Nobel Prize, penicillin. My wife says to me, they're just lying to you. They're just lying to you. It's complete bullshit. It's just the most amazing New York phenomena.
This is an interesting thing, though. Like, I think it is useful for parents to start being more realistic and talking about all of this stuff. Like in a very, you don't have to put your kids down. This is what I'm saying. You don't have to put your kids down, but I think being honest about what being a parent is and what being a kid is important for all of us.
That's the whole point of scaffolding. That's exactly it. We're not over cheerleading. We're not saying, oh, you're great because you poured a glass of milk. Thank you for pouring the glass of milk. It's terrific. But the idea of over exaggerating is so problematic. 30 years ago or so, it was summertime. My wife was out in the Hamptons, and I had dinner with another guy, bachelor dinner. And he said, so-and-so, he's a total wuss. He's been working for Lehman Brothers for 10 years. Why would anyone work for Lehman Brothers for 10 years? And, I said, he must make a ton of money. Harold, at best, he makes $500,000 a year. This is 30 years ago. And I was the youngest chief of child psychiatry in the country at the time. And I wasn't making $100,000. He then says, so-and-so, he works at Drexel Burnham. He can barely put two sentences together. He makes $1 million. So-and-so, he makes $2 million. And so I was sitting there at the table, and I thought, everyone I know must make $1 million a year. Does everyone know I don't make $1 million a year? This is so embarrassing. This is like the worst thing that's ever happened. And I'm too quiet. I must have twitched. And he said to me, Harold, you can't compare yourself to these people. After all, you're just a doctor. Just a doctor. I said, you have any idea how hard it was to get into medical school? So I made a decision that I'm not going to have dinner with this guy ever again. But more importantly, he's paying for dinner, because if he thinks $400,000,
sure.
So he pays for dinner. I'm walking outside. I'm on Madison Avenue between 89th and 90th Street on the east side of the street. It's a beautiful night. And walking up the street is Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. He is shorter. He was shorter than you would have thought. He was wearing a seersucker suit and he had his jacket over his shoulder. So the blue of his eyes were absolutely unbelievable. Cool. She had blonde hair then, and he had his arm wrapped around her. They clearly liked each other. I'm way too cool to say hello to them. And as they're walking up and I'm walking down, they stop me and say, "Hi, how are you? It's good to see you." And I say, "It's good to see you too. Aren't we lucky? What a beautiful night to live in New York." I said, "Yes, we're so lucky. You know, we're lucky to live in the city." I said, "I couldn't agree with you more." He said, "Well, good seeing you. Have a great evening." I said, "The two of you too." I walk away, and instead of feeling, isn't it amazing, two of the most famous movie stars at the time think they know me, all I could think about was that each one of them was making more than $1 million a year. And I thought to myself, if they could make me crazy, it could make me feel totally inadequate, right? And I was the youngest child psychiatrist running a department in the country. I came home and I called my wife, and my wife said to me, "This is absurd. You know, you love being a child psychiatrist. If you want to make $1 million a year, you have to go do something else." I said, "I'm so upset." And she said, "Well, there must be a Valium in the medicine chest. Take a Valium, go to sleep, you'll feel better tomorrow." But the next day when I woke up, I started thinking about it. New York, but I think LA too, and Chicago, this is a bubble. And if everyone's making $1 million and everyone's winning the Pulitzer Prize and everyone's winning the Tony Award or the Oscar, and you have a kid who is struggling to pass math, to get a C in algebra, you as a parent, this was the beginning of scaffolding. If you as a parent don't say, "I have to protect my kid, I have to give him structure and support and encouragement, and I have to celebrate the fact that he got a C+, because otherwise he's going to be diminished." I felt diminished, and I shouldn't feel diminished by someone else making $1 million a year. And instead of being excited about seeing Paul Newman and thinking he knows me, I'm just worried about, how much money is in his bank account. So we have to protect our kids, whether you're living in LA or Chicago or New York or Miami or in rural America, where there's always someone who's going to be more successful. Someone else is going to have a slightly easier time hitting the baseball or catching the football or getting the answer right. And what we have to do for our kids is just scaffold them to say, "You can do this. It might be hard, right, but next time it's going to be a little bit easier." I mean, this journey can be so much fun. And we need some tools. Look, if you don't scaffold yourself, you can't do this.
That's the truth.
If you don't do self-care, you don't do childcare. If you're not sleeping 8 hours, if you're not eating normally, if you're not doing some exercise and some spirituality, if you're not doing some mindfulness or going to church or to synagogue, you're not taking care of yourself. And you have to take care of yourself and be a good scaffold so that the building can be strong.
When Birdie was going through the most sort of dramatic part of the bullying, and we didn't know, I truly didn't know what to do, and I was having such a difficult time. It was really, really, really hard. Now, Harold, I love a margarita. You know what I mean? I'm like a lady who likes my chips and my guac and my margaritas, and I'm not one of those like every night drinkers, but I do love margaritas. And I remember feeling like, okay, here's one thing I'm going to do. Until this all gets figured out and I know exactly what we're doing and I'm not going to drink at all. Like I need to be as clear as I can so I can be aware as I can, so I can be like in myself, in my body, just as clear as possible. And I have to tell you, it made the hugest difference. And it wasn't forever. It was just while I currently had a kid in crisis, did I take like a step back and I'm like, here's what I need to do. I'm going to need to like continue working out, taking care of myself, but I'm also not going to drink. I'm not going to smoke pot. I'm not going to impair myself in any way for this time because I need to like be sharp and focused.
You were securing yourself.
Yes. For me, I think probably for everybody, they need to stop the rosé at dinner. You know what I mean?
The fact is that if you don't secure yourself, if you don't lay a good foundation for yourself, you can't help your children. Especially during a catastrophe. Because if I said this is a major stressor, this will make every child who had anxiety or a mood disorder before worse. This is, even for the healthiest kids, they are going to feel the social isolation. They're going to feel the stress. So we as parents really have a much harder job now than before. And we just have to scaffold them.
It sounds like you're saying that was like a realistic thing that you needed for yourself. And we were having a good conversation about being realistic in general. And I wanted to bring up something, and Dr. Harold, I'm not a professional, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. I want to bring up something about being realistic as a parent that has dealt with some of this stuff in the past about being realistic. And that is, and I want to try to say this correctly, if as a parent you feel like something's going on with your kid and you're afraid, because that's a scary thing, saying something about it or not saying something about it won't make it more or less true.
You're absolutely right. But think about it. The average parent in the United States waits 2 to 8 years, depending on the diagnosis, once they see symptoms before they go see a doctor. So that means that people are afraid that if I say it out loud, it'll mean my kid is sick or very psychotic or very learning disabled or disordered. If one more parent says to me, can't we just call it problems? Well, if we call it problems, it's 100% of the population. Can we call it issues? Well, if we call it issues, that's about 50% of the population. If we call it disorders, it's 20%. That's still a lot. But if you don't call it what it is, insurance doesn't cover it. You don't get accommodations. You don't get the treatment you're supposed to. So if your kid has a real reading disorder or a language disorder, the school is required to remediate it for free. But if you're just saying it's a little reading issue, they're going to say, I'm not paying for it. And if you don't tell your insurance company your child really has depression, it's not just demoralization. The kid's appetite, the kid's mood, the kid's sleep are really affected. The insurance company is not going to pay for it. And one of the, how do I know Busy? Busy participated in this unbelievable campaign we started in 2017 called #MyYoungerSelf. We got famous influencers to give us a video to say, I have one of these disorders. I made it through the tunnel. Don't be ashamed. Get help. But the idea that famous, good-looking, successful people can say, look, I have it, and I got better. I have to tell you, last year, Kevin Love, who's this basketball player, he said, I have a terrible anxiety disorder. I have panic attacks. And until I started taking medicine and doing more physical exercise, I was struggling. So the fact that in America, we are worried that our kids will be less than if they have a mental health disorder or a learning disorder really impairs the fact that they don't get help. Because I told you before, real, common, but remarkably treatable. And
also, if you think something's going on with your kid and you say, hey, I'm worried that something might be going on with you, you're not going to make that true for them. If it is true, it's true. And if it's not true, it's not true. And you're not going to make it true by saying it out loud to them. You're not going to give them the idea that they're going to become suicidal or depressed because you say, I'm worried that you seem very hopeless and very sad lately. You don't seem the same. Talk to me,
And I'll take it one better. You even go get them evaluated. What's the best thing that could happen? You get them evaluated and the doctor says, normal teenager, just some angst, nothing to worry about. So yes, it was time consuming. It cost some money, but how reassuring to be told it's okay. It's just part of normal development.
Well, this is what I was going to say to you, because I know we have to let you go in a second. What should parents be doing at home if they don't have your number in their phone?
So I would tell you that childmind.org, our website, which now I think has 58 million visitors and gets almost 2 million unique visitors every month, is really a very reliable resource of scientifically sound information. There's a symptom checker that within 20 minutes you can figure out if there's something to worry about or not, and then you could reach out and get some help. It should be reassuring to families to know that, A, we don't take money from the pharmaceutical industry. We don't let drug reps on the grounds of the Child Mind Institute simply because they're always attractive, articulate, and seductive, and they bring food and pens. Just keep them away from me. And we don't take money from guns, tobacco, or liquor. So the fact that we are giving you scientifically sound information, we're not asking for money for it. You could just rely on us. It's supported through philanthropic, resources. I think that if I was worried about my child, I'd go to childmind.org and check the symptom checker, or look up on a video of what a learning disability looks like, or check what's the difference between demoralization and depression. Because when crummy things happen, we feel crummy, which is different than depression. And I think the more informed we are as parents, the better we are for our kids. And certainly, I think it's time for us to we could all be better parents. Stop being helicopters or snowplows, or I sometimes think I was a concierge parent. Can I get you a better class? Can I get you a better? Got to stop that. You want independent.
Mark is really, you know what Mark is? Mark's a real, he's a real like waiter on a cruise ship. He will get those kids anything they want.
He has to read the book. He has to definitely read the book.
I don't even know if I could ever mess with that. Like, I think there's some part of him that like it just brings him such joy to make them exactly what they want.
But that's different.
It drives me insane.
That's different than not letting them ever cook. You know what I mean? It's like, let's prepare the food together.
Oh yeah, no. The kids cook with right. The kids cook too. Oh, Birdie makes really good smoothies.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I think the Child Mind is such an incredible resource for parents. I just also want to reiterate, guys, we talk about mental health a lot on our podcast. We talk about our own therapists that we see. And like Harold said, remember when we used to fly on airplanes? Remember that? And we'd watch that video and you wouldn't be paying attention, but that you're supposed to secure your face mask thing before you help your kids. And you have to make sure that mentally you're doing okay too. And I know this has just been such a hard time, such a hard year, over a year now for so many people. And then before that even as well. And so I really think that all of these things, it is like a pressure cooker or cumulative, like I remember once having an allergist who told me that allergies are cumulative and your body like will reach a point where they're just like, oh, forget it. I cannot handle one more piece of this thing that I'm allergic to. And mental health is kind of the same way, right? And so like everybody's been getting filled up and filled up and filled up. And so just let's make sure that you're taking care of yourselves, and that will allow you to take better care of your kids and get the right help for them that they may need. Or maybe you just read The Scaffold Effect and implement some tools, and like then everything is kind of fine.
Redraw the blueprint. It's still time.
Well, Harold, I can't thank you enough for joining us. This was so nice and helpful. And I know that a lot of our listeners are going through it, and they have kids that are going through it. And I know just in my own house, we've been going through it.
We will get through this.
We will get through it. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Harold.
See you later. All right. Well, there. That was informative.
Yeah, the whole time we were talking to Dr. Harold, all I kept thinking is like, this is so useful for kids. Like, as someone who is a parent, so many times I was like, I really wish I had someone to ask about issues like this. I really wish I had someone to turn to. But also, like, just even before I ever had kids, I really wish I had known a lot of these things that I could have like applied to thinking about my own childhood. I think it's really useful for just anyone who ever has been a child to kind of like be able to wrap their head around, like, here's how you kind of come to terms with like a lot of things that you had to deal with as a child. And here's how you fix it and go forward.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't know. Like I was just so blown away by when Dr. Harold was saying that, the cases of like mental illness in children far surpass anything else that ails kids.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond. And yet we're not holding huge fundraisers, generally speaking. Like, no one is raising money for kids whose parents can't afford help with their mental health and well-being. And it's just like, it really breaks my heart, because especially like for Dr. Harold, who's somebody who's obviously like spent his entire life figuring out the best ways to help kids and how they can help get teens and preteens and back sort of like on the right mental health track, it isn't, I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery, turns out.
Right.
It's like, actually, they can do it. But people need resources, and there need to be professionals that can provide these services. And parents have to be willing to ask for help for their children in that specific way. And for whatever reason, still, there's just this stigma where parents don't want to acknowledge or admit maybe that their kid might be struggling with some issues and could use some help.
Yeah. And I know this from experience, when parents are finally ready to say, like, I think there's something going on with my kid, a lot of times they just can't find where you're supposed to start. There just is no start line. It's just a lot of people saying, like, I don't know. Yeah. You know.
And I was saying, Ashley, in the interview with Dr. Harold, like, because I do think it's important, like, even me, like, even me. No, but like, even like,
that was a real Meghan McCain.
It was a real fucking Meghan McCain. We didn't talk about Meghan McCain apologizing. Even me. It was hard for me. Even me. I am from Arizona. Lest you forget.
Busy's going to come in with 3 buns on top of her head, and the transformation will be complete.
I remember my friend Yashar, who was like, a long time ago, do you know Meghan McCain? I really think I was like, Yashar, not a fucking chance. Not one fucking chance. No. Sorry. No. I don't want to fuck Vince Vaughn anymore, and I am not going to be friends with Meghan McCain.
You know what is interesting about Meghan McCain is I know Yashar really digs her. Andy Cohen really digs her. He has her on Watch What Happens Live a lot. And, our friend Michael Ian Black also has, like, done projects with her. And so what I'm saying is, like, a lot of guys really dig Meghan McCain.
Well, no, I was going to say, we used to live in the same apartment building.
Really?
Yeah, and she's really friendly and was always very friendly to me. And that's when she was on The View and I was on Full Frontal, so we both knew, what each other stood for. But I think some people have more tolerance than others for the thing where it's like, yeah, I go on TV and say all these things, but I'm nice in person. I'm not
zero.
A fan of that, but
No.
I think some dudes are.
I have zero. I think I have zero fucking tolerance for it because I think that we've just so clearly seen the effect. And I think, like, we're living through the fucking effect right now. And it's caused so many people so much pain, and unnecessarily so, just for some fucking ratings. Fuck you.
And there are nicer ways to get on TV. Get married at first sight. Go on American Idol. Like, if you want to be on TV, ranting about other human beings is not the only option you have.
It's just a shame. It's a bummer. It's a bummer that people convince themselves that these personalities are like actual personalities in order. Oh, it's like, this goes back to the top of the show. Like, sit with yourself and be honest. What is it you want? Do you want to trade in on your little bit of fame from who your parent is and try to, like, get more famous? Is that what your goal is? Or do you want to do good in the world? Do you want to be of service to people? Right. Or do you hope to maybe do both? And if that's the case, go fuck yourself. You're doing it all wrong, Meghan McCain. I don't know. She just drives me fucking nuts. Because I do, because that is the thing. Because it feels like she does know better. Like, it feels like she is smarter than the stupid shit that comes out of her mouth. Do you know what I mean? And it feels like it's all done in order to just, like, keep up this persona, to keep her fucking shitty job on a shitty show that is, like, I don't know, to, like, keep in headlines. Like, she's saying things. She's, like, bought into the whole thing. She's bought into it, and it's fucking bullshit. Ugh, I hate it. Sorry.
It's very professional wrestling, and it's so weird because it's like, you know, the View trends like every day, you know, like Whoopi smacked down Meghan McCain, or Joy Behar destroyed Meghan McCain, or, you know, whatever. And like, so obviously that's good for the View. And it seems very sincere. Like every time Whoopi like tears Meghan McCain a new one, it seems very sincere. And whenever Meghan McCain's like throat turns all red and splotchy, it seems very sincere that she's like embarrassed or upset. So, you know, but then, yeah, I'm like, it also seems like you can't believe half of this bullshit that you're saying. Like, you know, like I did have like a modicum of respect for your dad, but I do also have like a modicum of respect for her mom, you know, that they have their beliefs, but they also like kind of stand up when they're like, hey, but this is also like wrong.
Yeah, there's a line, and it's sad that like that's the bar, but people who say like there's a line and you can cross it are now like rare, and you have to respect that.
Yeah.
Woo. I'm all about lines.
There's a line. There are lines and boundaries. That's what the book guy needed to learn. Some boundaries.
Listen, my boundary is the threshold of the pig and whistle.
Which was true for me before I knew about the Goth Sex Club, by the way.
Which has been my boundary for as long as I've lived in LA. Oh, pig and whistle. We hardly knew ye. Oh.
Let me just push off elbow out of the way to go to my sexy golf party.
That show. Silicon Valley.
But everybody got canceled except for my friend Martin Starr.
And Kumail.
From Freaks and Geeks and Kumail. But they tried to come for Kumail. They tried to come for him.
Did they? Just
the
because
internet?
Of his
yes,
muscles?
because he got like jacked. Remember? It was a controversy.
You can't come for his
People
muscles.
were being mean. I love him.
I love him too. He's very nice. I worked with him very briefly, and he was very lovely.
Listen, and you know what? I'm never mad at any person who wants to like do the thing at one point in their life where they get like super in shape.
Yeah.
And he's doing it for a job, which is like a great excuse. And I like it.
Yeah.
I was watching.
Why wouldn't you?
I like comments. Do you know Katie Storino from Mega Babe?
Yes.
She had posted this thing like about some headline with Gwyneth Paltrow. I was up real early and I was kind of like a little wired. And she had posted this thing about this headline with Gwyneth Paltrow had like gained weight or something. I don't know. And Katie was like going off like, you know, these aren't headlines. This isn't news. Like women's bodies aren't news. And I responded in like this paragraph basically that was like, I totally agree with you and it's such bullshit. But also like, I do feel like we, as in the people who get asked these questions, have to do better about not answering them in the way that they want. Because no matter what, like if you give them anything, they're going to turn that into the clickbait headline. And so it's hard because that's a hard thing to remember to do when you're doing press, because you're generally exhausted. You're generally doing back-to-back interviews, and like your old brain, like patriarchal bullshit sets in people, and you're a people pleaser and you want to just be nice, answer the questions so you can fucking go home. And so, you know, I think it's like a little complicated because I think that the onus is on not just the reporters, but also on the people who are being asked the questions to say like, you know, I honestly, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go there, girl. You're not getting your clickbait headline. But then I was like, but the only exception is like when Christian Bale lost all that weight for The Machinist, or when Hilary Swank transformed her body for the boxing movie, or Kumail when he got all ripped for whatever movie it is. I have no fucking idea, but it's going to be a superhero movie, I'm sure. Like, I always want to know about those body transformations.
You know, in the case of Gwyneth, though, like that's her whole, that's her whole business plan is to like sell some detoxifying dust or whatever, so.
I mean, she does look good.
Yeah. I mean, she always
great.
did anyway.
I don't think if I put a rock in my vagina, I'm going to look like that. You know what I mean?
I've put one in mine.
Exactly. I could put 50 rocks in my vagina and I'm not going to look like that. It's genetics.
It's a lot of genetics, man.
Not vagina rocks.
It's a lot of genetics. And
Which
money.
Is a t-shirt, I think.
Healthy. It's genetics, not vagina rocks. Oh my God, that's genius. It's genetics, not vagina rocks.
It's a conversation starter.
It's, if I wore it, I would have to say it's genetics, not vagina rocks. And then in parentheticals, and a little bit of Olay. Guys, should I cut my hair into like a little kicky bob? Look at this. Bang.
When you put it back, I was like, that looks
cute.
really cute.
It's very Charlize.
Once, right after years ago, like 15 years ago, someone at a hotel thought that I was Charlize Theron, and it was truly one of the best moments of my life. They quickly realized I was not. But for 1 second, they thought that I was. And I was,
when you got excited about
and
it.
I got excited, and then they're like, "Oh, no.
Charlize
Sorry.
would never get this excited about.
I mean, 100%,
Being
right?
called Charlize?
Yes.
No.
Our listeners, Neil and Jennifer. Neil sent me a message on Instagram. Neil and Jennifer are going out. They listen to the podcast together in Ottawa. And they've been each other's COVID bubble since January. And Neil works for the Foreign Service, and he's been given a new post, and he has to leave for 4 years, and Jennifer won't be going with him. And I really hope this isn't the first time Jennifer is hearing of this, because that would be terrible. But
I think she'd want to hear it from you.
You never know with guys, right?
Jennifer, you're in an open relationship. Just so, no, I'm kidding.
But Neil mentioned that they are spending their last few days together in Ottawa, and he said it would mean a lot to her if we just said to them that they're doing their best and they're doing what's best for each other by, going their separate ways. And, it's going to be hard, but Jennifer and Neil were thinking of you guys.
Mariah Carey, Butterfly. Actually, a great breakup song. That's my contribution to the conversation. Mariah Carey's Butterfly.
That is a good breakup song. And it really sucks, you guys, but I think it's nice. It sounds like you're parting on really excellent, very grown-up terms, and I super admire that. And I love that you wrote to us and asked us just to say hi to you, and we love you. And
we love you guys.
Yeah. Enjoy your last couple moments together. And and maybe in 4 years, who knows?
Also, just who knows? You never know. You don't know what could happen.
You never know. We truly never thought we were going to make it through the past 4 years in America.
I didn't think we were going to make it through 30 episodes of this podcast. And here we are. Episode 33 or whatever. Something. Oh my God, you guys. We love you so much. We just fucking love you. Take care of yourselves. Ashley, you're just the best.
I mean, we love you, obviously.
What's happening? What's going on? Like, when is your show coming back? What's going on? Tell us real fast.
Oh, I cannot say.
Oh, never mind. Don't tell us anything.
But
we don't want to know.
It's a secret when a Black Lady sketch show is coming back to HBO. So keep your eyes out looking for it. I don't say keep your eyes peeled because I think that phrase is disgusting.
Yeah.
Just like when I said to Cricket, skin the cat, when I tried to take her shirt off, to put her jammies on. And she was like, that is So messed up, Mom. Cricket has really turned a corner of attitude since the haircut, and I just don't know what to do.
Oh, I love it.
She's been
like Samson. She's more powerful.
She got some power back.
She got more power. She got very powerful after the haircut, and she's just like very sassy, and is like not having me at all.
Gosh.
She is not to be messed with. That Cricket.
One of the best things about not having kids is how much I get to enjoy that kind of thing. Like, my favorite developmental phase is when a child learns the word no and they say it to everything, because I don't have to live with the kid.
Oh my God.
Great. Learning to say no is very important.
It is. It is. And we empower our children. And that's the thing too, like when you're like the trickiness of raising a child in which you want to make sure that like consent is always something that they understand is important and valuable, and they're always allowed to express their desires and their wants and their needs. And it starts like just basic stuff, but then they just take advantage of it and they just say no to fucking everything.
That's what we would always whisper to each other. My husband and I would always whisper, if he's standing up to you, that means he'll stand up to others.
That's what my mom said. Like, we could always have a conversation in our house. And because my mom wanted me to be able to stand up to teachers and bosses and all this stuff. But then as adults, she was like, you talked so much. Like, you just never stopped. We talked for 18 years.
You guys, I feel pretty certain that Birdie is not a podcast listener, so I'm going to share this. But yesterday, I've been really doing a good job. Also, here's another thing I've been doing. You know, I've been really working on my parenting, and I've been doing a good job at like putting my phone down, putting my own devices down, like leading by example, right? And like spending time with my kids. And it's hard sometimes not to just capture those moments right onto Instagram, which I do occasionally, but I'm even doing better about that, I feel like. But yesterday evening, dinner, then after dinner, Birdie found me, and it was a nonstop, one-sided conversation that at a certain point I had to text Mark, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Like, you have to come. And he had tried to come in a couple times because I think he could tell that I was like, oh my God. But as soon as he would walk in, Birdie would be like, go away, we're talking. And I was like, we are not talking. You have been talking at me for damn near 4 hours now. I cannot. And like, by the way, they're so smart and they know so many things, and they're so thoughtful and like have told me so many incredible things. But then a lot of it, I'm just like, we went over this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember. Right. I remember. 'Cause you just said that. Yeah. You just said that. That's the same thing you just said. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, please. God damn. Anyway, love him. I just love him.
Wow.
It's
fun. It's all fun.
It is fun. You've had that, I'm sure, Caissie.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have it with my husband sometimes.
Matt does listen to the podcast, though, Caissie. He does.
What?
To your boys, do they listen?
Yes, they do? They all do, yeah.
Oh, that's cute. We love you guys.
We love you all. All my people listen.
Well, I'm glad that all of you at home listen. And I'm glad that Ashley listens and was here. And I listen sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I just have to be honest. But I love you guys. And I hope that this week was a little bit better for you all at home. It was a little bit better for me. A little bit. But we're going to just keep doing our best. That's all we can do. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are we in agreement? Okay.
Yeah.
We got it? Okay.
Yeah. We're going to do it.
You guys, I love you.
We love you.
I love you guys so much.
We love you. Bye,
Ashley, we love you.
Bye.
Bye, Caissie, I love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye, people at home, I love you.
Bye.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing my best. Oh no.